Chapter 5948. After walking around for a while, Yu Ziqing continued, "There is something wrong with this matter. If Lin Yi can easily kill Uncle O and Uncle Li, then his strength is too terrifying. It is too dangerous for us to continue to stay on the extreme North Island. We'd better leave as soon as possible." "If we leave, what about that matter?" Aunt Lon said hesitantly. "Although there has been some progress, it is not stable yet. If there is any accident, all our previous efforts will be wasted." Yu Ziqing smiled sinisterly and said, "It doesn't matter. Don't we have Zheng Tianqing? I used to look down on that guy too much. I always thought he was an idiot. I didn't expect him to have some brains. We can make good use of him. I have hinted to him that he will be very happy to take over." "Since you have decided, young governor, I have no opinion." Aunt Lon frowned slightly, but finally nodded in agreement. Yu Ziqing finally stopped walking around. He sat down and drank a mouthful of spirit tea. He sighed and said, "It's a pity that the backup plan to deal with Lin Yi can't be used. Before we leave, we have to stay away from this person, but this guy probably won't live for more than a few days." Aunt Lon was also regretful. From the beginning, she did not think that they should become enemies with a genius like Lin Yi. Unfortunately, Yu Ziqing was stubborn. Now, in order to avoid Lin Yi, they had to leave the extreme North Island early. As for Yu Ziqing's belief that Lin Yi would not live for more than a few days, Aunt Lon did not agree with him at all. On the contrary, she always felt that Lin Yi could grow into an existence that she needed to look up to. When Zheng Tianqing rushed to Yu Ziqing's residence, Lin Yi was taking Languza to all the delicacies in the extreme North Island. Originally, Wei Shenjin was also with them. However, compared with the delicacies, it was obvious that the beauty shang attracted his attention more. Therefore, this guy reported to Lin Yi early and ran to find Shan Yuhua halfway. Languza was very indignant about this. He severely reprimanded this new brother of his for valuing a lover over a friend. Then, he very generously ate Wei Shenjin's portion as well. Lin Yi found it funny as he watched Languza eat and drink. After this guy came to Heaven Step Island, his appetite seemed to have increased a lot. Lin Yi wondered if this mutated sea flood dragon still had the Taotai gene. If this were to continue, famine would break out wherever he went. "Boss, you want to eat too?" Languza chewed on a piece of meat. He didn't know what it was as he mumbled to Lin Yi. Lin Yi smiled and said, "I'm already full. You can eat by yourself." "Oh, then don't waste your share." Languza conveniently took the untouched portion of food in front of Lin Yi and happily threw it into his mouth. Lin Yi suddenly didn't know whether to laugh or cry. After all this time, this guy only asked him to eat to test him. In fact, he wanted to eat. Languza, speaking of which, there's a guy over there. It seems that his appetite is also very good. He can compete with you. Lin Yi had nothing to do, so he used his divine sense to wander around. He just happened to find a burly man who ate like Languza, so he treated it as an interesting matter. Languza raised his head and looked. Of course, he didn't see anyone. However, his divine sense quickly found that burly man. He immediately snorted and said, "Hateful guy, the smell on his body is really unpleasant." "Smell? Languza, do you have dog genes? You can smell the smell of others from so far away?" Lin Yi asked amusedly. "It was a few miles away. Even a dog couldn't smell it, right?" Languza raised his eyebrows and swallowed the food in his mouth and said, "Boss, in fact, it's not that I smell anything, but when my divine sense swept him, I have a feeling that I hate him. Or, it's the smell on his body that makes me a little allergic." Lin Yi was speechless. It was the first time that he heard that someone's breath could make others allergic. What was this? Was it a mysterious killing skill? However, seeing that Languza didn't seem to be talking nonsense, he carefully used his divine sense to sweep the burly man a few times. He wanted to see how his breath made Languza allergic. Unfortunately, no matter how he looked, it was normal. There was nothing strange. "Languza, it can't be that you hate someone who can compete with you for food has appeared, right?" Lin Yi couldn't help but make such a ridiculous guess. However, if it was Languza, it was really very possible. When Languza heard what Lin Yi said, he actually thought very seriously for a moment. Then, he stuffed a piece of meat into his mouth and said, "Boss, you're really smart. Maybe it's really like this." Lin Yi was speechless. Just when he wanted to despise Languza, the ghostly thing laughed strangely and said, "Two stupid boys. Forget about that stupid sea dragon. His brain is full of meat. What can you expect from him? But you, this boy, are also like this. Really, you are marked by the company you keep. Being with this stupid sea dragon really makes you stupid." Being ridiculed by the ghostly thing, Lin Yi immediately smiled faintly and said, "Senior Ghost, it seems that I've spent much more time with you than Languza. You're also marked by the company you keep, right?" The ghostly thing sneered and said, "Of course, it's very difficult to become as good as me, but it's very easy to become as stupid as the stupid sea dragon. Obviously, you have chosen the easy path." Well, there was really no point in bickering with this ghostly thing. Lin Yi took the opportunity to change the topic. "Senior Ghost, what are you trying to say? The big man that your divine sense scanned is not a human at all. I can only tell you this much. I don't want to waste any more time with you. I'm going to continue my closed-door cultivation. Don't look for me if there's nothing important." The ghostly thing laughed strangely a few times and immediately went silent. Lin Yi was slightly startled. That big man was not a human. Just as he was about to ask about it, the ghostly thing went into closed-door cultivation again. He had no choice but to continue his research. If this guy was not a human, could it be a sea beast in human form, just like Languza? But after Languza transformed into a human form, as long as he didn't deliberately release his aura, he was exactly the same as a human. This was thanks to his genetic mutation. If that big man was also a sea beast, it would be impossible for him to achieve the same level as Languza. "Languza, carefully feel that big man and see if he is a sea beast." Lin Yi's expression became slightly dignified and whispered to Languza, "If the sea beast could transform into a human form and enter the extreme North Island, then this crisis was too big. The extreme North Island could be captured at any time." Chapter 59-49. This completely alarmed the burly man. After all, the strength of Languza's divine sense couldn't be compared with Lin Yi's. His control of divine sense was also incomparable. It was impossible for such an action to go unnoticed. After feeling Languza's divine sense prying, the burly man directly used his own divine sense to investigate. The strength of his divine sense was not weak. His strength was at least above the mountain opening stage. Languza's body shook, and he snorted, "Boss, that guy's not a sea beast. His breath doesn't have the smell of the sea. If he was a sea beast, I wouldn't hate him. However, he is indeed not a human. He is a member of the Spirit Beast clan." Lin Yi's divine sense easily intercepted the divine sense of the burly man. He used a simple divine sense whirlpool to completely annihilate it. Then, he turned his head and said in surprise, "The Spirit Beast clan doesn't stay in the South Island. What is he doing in the North Island? Could it be that he wants to expand? Even if he wants to expand, the span from the southernmost to the northernmost island is too big. No wonder the ghost could see through this guy. He was a member of the Spirit Beast clan. Even if he was disguised, the ghost, who was once a Spirit Beast elder, could tell at a glance." The burly man's divine sense was like a clay ox entering the sea. He instantly lost contact with his body. Moreover, there was a faint backlash. He immediately knew that he had encountered a master. Without any hesitation, he immediately got up and ran. Lin Yi pulled Languza and said, "Don't eat. Let's go and catch that guy first." Whether he was a sea beast or a spirit beast, it was a very serious matter to transform into a human and sneak into the North Island. After all, Li Ziyu was Lin Yi's friend. If the North Island was in trouble, Lin Yi would definitely not sit idly by. Languza hurriedly grabbed 2 pieces of meat and quickly ran over there with Lin Yi. If it weren't because there were more people here, Lin Yi almost wanted to use the thunder escape technique to chase after the burly man. The only drawback of the thunder escape technique was that the movement when it was used was too big. Even people in the distance could easily see the flashing lightning arc Fortunately, in addition to the thunder escape technique, Lin Yi's extreme butterfly subtle steps was also very fast. It was very suitable for use in crowded places. After a few small flashes, he had left Languza behind. The burly man in front seemed to feel that he was being targeted by Lin Yi. His speed increased again. His whole person almost became an afterimage. Even if Lin Yi went all out to chase, the distance was gradually. If he didn't use the thunder escape technique, it seemed that he really couldn't catch up with this guy. He didn't know what his original body was. His speed was actually so fast. Fortunately, Lin Yi and Languza's divine sense had locked on this burly man. Even if they couldn't catch up with him for a while, as long as he didn't escape from the North Island, they were not afraid of him flying into the sky. They would still catch him sooner or later. However, in the middle of the chase, the burly man jumped into a building complex. Lin Yi's divine sense suddenly lost his trace. Damn, there's a prohibition to isolate divine sense in that area. Lin Yi cursed in a low voice. Even if his divine sense could tear these seals apart, it wouldn't be able to do it in a short time. Now, he could only chase after them and see if he could find the burly man with his naked eyes. There was still some distance between Languza and Lin Yi, so Lin Yi sent a voice transmission to him. Languza, I will go in and find that guy. You cover the periphery of this area with your divine sense. Don't let that guy escape. As long as he was sure that the burly man was still in this area. Even if Lin Yi couldn't find him, he could still inform Li Ziyu and ask the Li family to send people to search for him. In such a small area, it wouldn't take long even if they dug 3 feet into the ground. The plan was good, but before Lin Yi entered the area, a team of Northern Town Guard patrolled over and directly blocked Lin Yi's way. Stop! This is a restricted area. You are not allowed to enter. The leader of the Northern Town Guards coldly raised the long sword in his hand and stood in front of Lin Yi. Lin Yi said seriously, there was a spy just now. Hurry up and follow me to catch him. Stop. If you take another step, we won't be polite anymore. The leader of the Northern Town Guard saw that Lin Yi was still moving forward, so he took half a step back and pulled out his long sword. The other 9 Northern Town Guards also pointed their weapons at Lin Yi. Lin Yi's face turned cold. He said coldly, You ignored the spy just now, but now you are standing in front of me. Can I assume that you are in cahoots with the spy? The leader of the Northern Town Guards was not moved at all. He still said coldly, We didn't see anyone else go in. We only saw you trying to break into the restricted area. This is your last warning. Leave now, or don't blame us for not showing mercy. At this time, Languza had already landed next to Lin Yi. Seeing the 10 aggressive Northern Town Guards, he immediately rubbed his arms and said, Who are you? How dare you warn my boss? Are you tired of living? Boss, can I beat them up? Lin Yi raised his hand to stop Languza, who was ready to make a move. In any case, the Northern Town Guards were Li Ziyu's subordinates. If you want to beat a dog, you have to look at its owner first. Moreover, this was the trouble of the extreme North Island. There was no need to be nosy and make Li Ziyu an enemy for no reason. More importantly, after being blocked by these guys, with the terrifying speed of the burly man, without the divine sense, it was impossible to know where he had escaped. Although they were sure that he was still in this area, it was not something that Lin Yi could find by himself. All right, since you won't let me in, I won't go in. I'll wait for your young master to come. Then I'll be able to go in, right? Lin Yi smiled coldly. Anyone would feel uncomfortable if their good intentions were treated as malicious intent. Don't use the name of the young master to pressure us. Wait until you invite the young master here. The leader was like a stone in a latrine pit. He was smelly and stubborn. He would not give in until now. A Northern Town Guard behind him suddenly whispered, Captain, this seems to be Master Lin Yi. He is a Master Lin who sold 400 million spiritual jades in an auction. He and the young master are really good friends. The leader of the Northern Town Guards was slightly stunned. Although he felt that it was a bit tricky, he did not think that he had done anything wrong. He still stopped Lin Yi without taking a step back. Languza was very unhappy. He muttered to Lin Yi, Boss, this guy is so annoying. Let me beat him up. I promise I won't kill him. Chapter 5950. He was too lazy to look for Li Ziyu, so he decided to use this method to attract the attention of the Li family in the extreme north. There would definitely be people coming to check if something like this happened in the city guards institution. Based on the incident with the sea beast yesterday, it was very likely that Li Ziyu would come in person. All Lin he needed to do was to wait here after the fireworks. Languza, go and guard the other side. Don't let that guy sneak out. Lin he instructed with a calm expression. Although his divine sense could cover the entire periphery of this area, the burly man's speed was too fast. If he didn't let Languza go over to stand guard, it was very likely that he wouldn't be able to catch up to him even if he discovered his tracks. Languza agreed and looked at the 10 North Guard regretfully. What a great opportunity to fight. Unfortunately, his boss did not allow him to do it. He hoped that there would be a new opportunity on the other side. The leader of the North Guard was still expressionless. As long as Lin he did not enter the restricted area, he would not interfere no matter what he did. Of course, this was also because he knew Lin Yi's identity. If it was someone else who dared to set off fireworks in the city guards institution, they would immediately be sent to jail for free. Languza took a detour and ran in the opposite direction. Lin he did not have to wait for long before Li Ziyu hurried over with his North Guard guards. Brother Lin, why are you here? What happened? Li Ziyu was a little surprised when he saw Lin Yi. He also felt strange. Why did he see Lin Yi everywhere he went? Lin Yi nodded to Li Ziyu and said, Brother Li, I was eating with my friends just now. We found a suspicious guy and chased him all the way here. The guy went inside, and I was blocked by the North Guard. So I set off the fireworks and lured you here. A suspicious guy? What does he look like? Why does Brother Lin think he is suspicious? Li Ziyu didn't think that Lin he would be so bored as to come here and talk nonsense to him. So he asked solemnly. Lin he was the one who reminded him about the sea beast yesterday. Li Ziyu now had a great sense of trust in Lin Yi. As long as it was Lin Yi who said it, he would not doubt it. Lin Yi smiled and said, Brother Li, I would like to ask, is there any restriction on spiritual beasts or sea beasts that can transform into human forms? Spiritual beasts can go on the island as long as they have a proper identity card. Sea beasts can transform into human forms, but not sea beasts. The island has an ancient restriction specifically against sea beasts. Sea beasts that can transform into human forms will show once they come on the island. This auction is very important. Every spiritual beast that can transform into human forms has been driven away from the island. Guards are to the island. So, the sea beasts who have sea beasts that can transform into human forms to human forms. For the island, for sea beasts to transform 444, for the to be 4. Sure enough, the guy that escaped into the guard station was a black card. Fortunately, Lin Yi did not know that spiritual beasts were allowed to enter the island. Otherwise, he would not have chased after him. In fact, many of Li Ziyu's words were incorrect. For example, the sea beasts would show their original forms when they came on the island. Languza, who was a member of the royal family of sea beasts, was obviously not one of them. It was probably a benefit brought by mutation. Theoretically, there were no spiritual beasts on the island. The management of the spiritual beasts on the island was definitely negligent. At least, that burly man was a genuine spiritual beast. This was something that Lin he was very sure of. Brother Li, according to my observation and estimation, the suspicious guy I mentioned just now is a spiritual beast that can transform into human forms. As for whether he has been on the island for a long time or this is his first time here, I have no idea. If Brother Li is interested, why don't you catch him first? Lin he pointed at the guard station and said with a faint smile. Li Ziyu's expression changed. He immediately ordered the northern garrison, seal off the area immediately. Gather all the northern garrison soldiers and search every inch of the island. We must find that spiritual beast. With Li Ziyu's order, the northern garrison soldiers who were blocking Lin Yi did not dare to have any objections. They immediately sent out the signal to gather and be on alert. The entire guard station was in an uproar. All the northern garrison soldiers were equipped as fast as they could and appeared in their respective areas. Li Ziyu said proudly, "Brother Lin, don't worry. This is one of the northern garrison stations. As long as the spiritual beast is still here, it will not be able to escape. Brotherly, it's not a big deal. I just feel that it's strange for a suspicious spiritual beast to appear at this time. Could it be related to the sea beasts?" This was what Lin Yi was most worried about. He guessed that Li Ziyu was the same. Sure enough, Li Ziyu's expression suddenly became serious. Although spirit beasts and sea beasts have never had any contact, these two things happened too coincidentally. We really have to pay attention to it. I won't say thank you words, but Brother Lin's affection for our extreme North Island is in my heart. It's important to be friends. It's just a small matter. Don't mention it. Lin Yi waved his hand with a smile and turned to look at the guard station. This was the northern garrison station. It was inappropriate for Lin Yi to go in and search directly. Anyway, he and Languza were guarding on both sides. Their divine senses were also monitoring the space outside the guard station. They were not afraid that the burly man would sneak out. Li Ziyu wanted to invite Lin Yi to go in and have a look, but Lin Yi declined. He did not say much. He just stood there with Lin Yi and chatted with him. After a while, a soldier from the northern garrison ran over and cupped his fists. He bowed and said, "Young master, we didn't find anyone suspicious in the station. All the northern garrison soldiers are here, except for 6 who are on vacation." Lin Yi suddenly frowned. He was very sure that the burly man had entered the building complex and did not leave in any other direction. Now that the northern garrison said that they could not find him, there were only 2 possibilities. Either he was hiding very well, or someone was helping him in the dark. Needless to say, the latter was more likely. However, Lin Yi could not say this in front of Li Ziyu. Li Ziyu's face was also a bit pale. He also knew that Lin Yi would not lie to him, so there must be something wrong with the northern garrison. In addition, there was a sea beast above the mysterious ascending stage that broke through the restriction of the island. Even Okuda Dam and Lin Yi knew about it, and even notified the northern garrison. However, the northern garrison had not found anything for 2 days, which made Li Ziyu feel that the northern garrison was really useless. Chapter 59-51. It would not be fun if the young island master lost his temper. I'll ask them to search again. We must find the spy who sneaked into the garrison. The guard quickly expressed his attitude. Although he did not think that a new search would make any difference, it was better than bearing the wrath of the young island master. Remember, even if you have to tear down the entire garrison, you must find the spiritual beast in human form. Li Ziyu emphasized this was related to the safety of the northernmost island. He would not take it lightly. "Yes, young island master." The northern garrison guard replied respectfully and ran back to give the latest order. After the time it took for an incense to burn, the same northern garrison guard hurried out and reported with a bow, "Young master, we didn't find any trace of outsiders, but we found a tunnel over 100 meters deep in a secluded corner of the City Guards Institute. We haven't found out where it leads to yet. A bunch of useless fools. They don't even know that someone dug a tunnel in their garrison." Li Ziyu was going crazy. He was so embarrassed that he could not say anything. Lin Yi was even more certain that there was a spy in the northern garrison who was helping the spiritual beast. Otherwise, how could there be such a tunnel and the spiritual beast know where it was? Although Lin Yi's divine sense could reach hundreds of meters underground, who would extend their divine sense that far? The traitor was rather cautious. However, he had managed to fool Lin Yi and Languza's divine senses and sent the muscular man, who had transformed into a spiritual beast, out. Li Ziyu suppressed his anger and turned to Lin Yi. "Brother Lin, I'm sorry. Let's go take a look at the tunnel together. At least we need to know where it leads to." "Okay, let's go together." Lin Yi nodded gently. Compared to the tunnel, he was more interested in finding out who the spy in the northern garrison was. The northern garrison guard lowered his head in shame after being scolded by Li Ziyu. When he heard that the two were going to check the tunnel, he quickly led the way and led them there. Lin Yi looked calm on the surface, but he was very vigilant. Since he had confirmed that there was a spy in the northern garrison, He had to prevent the spy from attacking Li Ziyu, the young island master. Fortunately, the strongest among the northern garrison guards was only at the peak of the advanced stage of mysterious ascension. Lin Yi was confident that he could easily defend against such a powerful opponent. After a few turns, a hidden cave appeared in front of him. Judging from the surroundings, there were traces of a concealment formation set up here, but he couldn't tell the level of the formation anymore. Li Ziyu must have said that he would find it even if he had to tear down the guard station. The North Guard's violent search had destroyed the concealment formation, revealing this cave. Lin Yi used his divine sense to explore the cave. He did not find any danger. Moreover, several soldiers of the northern garrison had already entered the cave. Therefore, he and Li Ziyu did not stop and jumped directly into the cave. After quickly descending from the slope to the underground, Lin Yi's divine sense had confirmed that the length of the tunnel was more than 20 miles. The exit should be near the northern beach of the extreme North Island. Li Ziyu didn't say a word as he walked quickly. His mind was a bit chaotic. The successive events made him doubt his control over the northernmost island. Moreover, he had a faint feeling of danger. This danger was not for Li Ziyu alone, but for the entire Li family, or even the entire extreme North Island. If he was not careful, the entire extreme North Island would be in danger. When Lin Yi and Li Ziyu entered the tunnel, Zheng Tianqing was looking at the garrison from afar. He was originally going to find Yu Ziqing, but on the way, he saw the firework Lin Yi made, so he came to see what was going on. If he did not see Lin Yi there, Zheng Tianqing might have just left after a few glances. Although his two grandfathers had told him to stay away from Lin Yi, he would still be very concerned if they really met. It would be best if he could take advantage of the situation to trick Lin Yi. After Lin Yi and Li Ziyu entered the garrison, Zheng Tianqing suddenly heard a slight rustling sound. Then he heard a low male voice. Zheng Tianqing, find a place where there is no one to talk. Zheng Tianqing's eyes narrowed slightly. He looked left and right without batting an eyelid. When he found that no one was paying attention to him, he slowly left the circle of the audience and walked into an empty alley. What do you need me to do? After Zheng Tianqing confirmed that there was no one around, he asked in a low voice. In his ear was a miniature communication device. He heard that it was a high-tech product from a secular world. He did not know what high-tech was, but this thing was very useful. As long as it did not exceed the range of communication, two people could easily achieve real-time communication. It was very convenient. Moreover, this thing was like a mole stuck to the inside of the ear. It did not hinder the usual movements, and no one would notice this thing. You immediately meet up with Yu Ziqing and make some noise on the island to divert the attention of Li Ziyu and the others. The low male voice quickly gave the order, and then warned, be careful not to expose your identity. Zheng Tianqing's eyes flashed slightly. Yu Ziqing is really one of your people. What did you guys form a relationship with him? Before or after me? Zheng Tianqing, now is not the time for you to ask questions. Pay attention to your words and tone. Also, Yu Ziqing is not one of us for the time being. You can rest assured that he will not have the power to command you. The low male voice sternly reprimanded, and then comforted. Okay, then I will try my best to recruit him and let him be my little brother. Zheng Tianqing chuckled and looked around. Can you tell me what's going on? What is your plan on the extreme North Island? The low male voice was slightly impatient. Now you are not qualified to know. You just need to follow the instructions. This is the first time you really work for us. I hope you can perform well. Zheng Tianqing was suddenly speechless. He had indeed just joined them. It was a bit wishful thinking to want to know enough all at once. So although he was not very comfortable in his heart, he could only pinch his nose and accept it. Haha, I just want to better cooperate with you. Since it is not convenient for you to tell me, then forget it. Zheng Tianqing laughed a few times and found himself a way out. Chapter 59-52. The corner of Zheng Tianqing's mouth twitched a few times. He suppressed his displeasure and said, I know. I'm going to find Yu Ziqing now. Is there anything else? No, you could go now. The deep male voice did not say much. As for how to carry out his mission, it was up to Zheng Tianqing. This was also a kind of test. If Zheng Tianqing couldn't do it well, then it wouldn't be a pity if he was killed by the people of the extreme North Island. If he could successfully complete this task, perhaps he would become the focus of training. When Zheng Tianqing set off to find Yu Ziqing again, Lin Yi and Li Ziyu had already left the tunnel with a few northern garrison soldiers. The exit was indeed on the beach in the north. The northern garrison soldiers who had arrived earlier were scattered around to search. However, Lin Yi did not have much hope for them. He had already spread out his divine sense to search for the burly man in the widest range. Unfortunately, after so much time had passed, the man had already left the area that Lin Yi could sense. Moreover, the man was very meticulous. He did not leave any trace on the beach. "Brotherly, we can't find that guy. Let's go back first. These northern garrison soldiers should go with us. It's useless to keep them here. After all, he is a master in the mountain opening period. Even if we find him, they will just die." He shook his head and turned to look at Li Ziyu. He was ready to send him back first. "Brother Lin is right. Let's go back first." Li Ziyu forced a smile. He was thinking about what to do next. He could ignore the spiritual beast that had transformed into a human, but he had to find the person who dug the tunnel in the northern garrison soldiers. Li Ziyu decided to take control of all the northern garrison guards and interrogate them individually. He would not hesitate even if he had to lock them all up. After all, this was not the only northern garrison guard on the northernmost island. That was because Li Ziyu was a kind person. If it were a ruthless leader, he would have killed every single one of the northern garrison guardians if he could not find out who the traitor was. Lin Yi hesitated for a while and decided to remind Li Ziyu, "Brotherly, this may be a separate incident, but I have a feeling that the spiritual beast that appeared out of nowhere is related to the sea beasts. You'd better find a way to fix the restriction formation on the extreme North Island as soon as possible. Don't let your guard down on other things." Other things were naturally looking for the traitor in the northern garrison. Of course, Lin could not say it clearly, but Li Ziyu knew it clearly. "Brother Lin, don't worry. I've already talked to my old man about the restriction formation. I'm my old man's of the ancient dynasty. I can't set the restriction formation. As for the other things, I will of them." Li Ziyu nodded. When he saw the exit of the underground passage, his face turned ugly. Such a long underground passage could not be built overnight. There was no doubt that the traitor had been lurking for a long time. The loosening of the restriction formation might be caused by him. Perhaps there was more than one person who betrayed the extreme North Island. If there was only one person, it was hard to imagine that no one would find out after doing so many things. Lin Yi's eyes turned to the vast ocean under the night. There was a powerful seal passed down from the ancient times there. Even an Earth-class master like that ghost wouldn't be able to break it if he wasn't familiar with it, let alone Lin Yi. "Brotherly, maybe we can start by asking the people who are responsible for the maintenance or monitoring of the restriction formation." Lin Yi reminded him casually and did not say anything else. Li Ziyu cupped his hands at Lin Yi and nodded gently. The restriction formation had loosened, but no one reported it. There must be something wrong with the people who are monitoring and maintaining it. Besides, when the sea monsters above the mysterious ascending stage entered the safe area, Okuda Ba sent someone to warn them, but there was no response. There must be something wrong with this. These were all aspects that could be investigated. However, Li Ziyu's mood became heavier when he thought about how the Northern Guard's defense had become. "You guys destroy this passage completely, and then come back." Li Ziyu gave the order to the Northern Guard and left with Lin Yi. The northern garrison guards who were with him stayed behind as well. Firstly, they were there to help destroy the tunnel, and secondly, they were there to keep an eye on the northern garrison guards, in case the mole was among them and took the opportunity to slip away. At the same time, Zheng Tianqing had arrived at Yu Ziqing's residence. Because he knew that Yu Ziqing was also with him, his attitude was not as respectful as before. "Young Governor Yu, I have something to discuss with you this time." Zheng Tianqing casually cupped his fists and sat down casually. If it was before, he would always bow and cupped his fists, not daring to make any mistakes. However, it was different now. Just a small detail like this made Zheng Tianqing secretly happy. Of course, Yu Ziqing was unhappy when Zheng Tianqing was happy. Did this idiot follower think that he could be so presumptuous just because he was familiar with me? However, when he thought that he was about to blame Zheng Tianqing, he could only endure this little bit of unhappiness. Tianqing, I also have something to discuss with you. It seems that we have a tacit understanding. After chuckling, Yu Ziqing reached out and patted Zheng Tianqing's shoulder, looking very friendly. Zheng Tianqing thought that the deep male voice had also informed Yu Ziqing that this was what he wanted to discuss, so he wasn't surprised. Young City Lord Yu is right. Our tacit understanding will definitely get better and better in the future. Do you want me to say it, or you want me to say it? Yu Ziqing was thinking about how to make Zheng Tianqing take the blame willingly, so he waved his hand politely. You mentioned it first, so of course you should say it first. I'm all ears. All right, then I'll say it. Zheng Tianqing did not stand on ceremony, since he was already a member of that organization, and Yu Ziqing was not yet. He was considered Yu Ziqing's senior anyway. It was very normal for him to announce the task. After clearing his throat, Zheng Tianqing adjusted his posture, slightly raised his chin, and said, Young Governor Yu, according to Shangfeng's order, we have to secretly create something to divert Li Ziyu's or the Li family's attention. However, during this process, we must not be seen through. Do you understand what I mean? Chapter 59-53. That's right. Zheng Tianqing saw his expression, and an inexplicable sense of refreshment rose in his heart. He immediately pretended to be indifferent and nodded. I know that young City Lord Yu is not a member of our organization, but it doesn't matter. With a talent like young City Lord Yu, as long as you are willing, you will be able to join us smoothly and quickly rise to a higher position. On the surface, it seemed like he was praising Yu Ziqing, but in fact, it was Zheng Tianqing showing off in an obscure way. However, Yu Ziqing didn't care about these details. If Zheng Tianqing was a member of that organization, then his idea of shifting the blame would be completely useless. Fortunately, he let this idiot say it first. Otherwise, if the organization knew his thoughts, then it wouldn't be easy to deal with it. Although Yu Ziqing and that organization were only in a cooperative relationship, Night Moon City did indeed benefit from the cooperation. If he didn't do it well, he wouldn't be able to explain it when he returned. Zheng Tianqing was proud of himself for a while. Seeing that Yu Ziqing didn't have any reaction, he couldn't help but feel strange. Young City Lord Yu, do you have any opinions about this operation? Wasn't that what you wanted to say just now? Yes, that's what I wanted to say just now. Yu Ziqing quickly took the opportunity to hide his embarrassment and laughed dryly. I was just thinking about how to handle this matter properly. It's really not easy to create trouble without being discovered. I have to think about it carefully. You're right, so we have to discuss it properly. Zheng Tianqing deeply agreed with this. He didn't want to carry out a stupid mission and put himself in danger. Safety first. Tianqing, do you have any ideas? Why don't you tell me first? Yu Ziqing smiled and moved closer, showing a very intimate attitude. In fact, he wanted to calm the chaos in his heart. He was thinking about how to escape from the extreme North Island without any worries. How could he have the mood to accompany this idiot follower to cause trouble? But if King Trouble came to his door, it didn't seem appropriate to run away directly. Aunt Lon vaguely looked at Yu Ziqing, and she couldn't provide him with any ideas at the moment. I can't think of any ideas at the moment. Young City Lord Yu is wise and resourceful. Do you have any suggestions to discuss? Zheng Tianqing looked like a leader listening to opinions. He picked up the spirit tea on the side and took a sip. I haven't thought of it yet. Let's think about it carefully. Yu Ziqing said perfunctorily, leaned back in his chair, and casually changed the topic. Oh right, did something happen in the north just now? Did you find anything on your way here? Something happened at the Northern City Guards Institution. I'm not too sure about the details. Lin Yi and that Li Ziyu both went there, so I didn't dare to get too close. Zheng Tianqing only paid attention to Lin Yi. As for what happened at the City Guards Institution, he really didn't care. The guard station in the north? Yu Ziqing's heart skipped a beat. His body, which had just leaned back against the back of the chair, straightened up again. Isn't there someone I've introduced to you in the city guard station in the north? Could it be that Li Ziyu and Lin Yi went there because of him? Zheng Tianqing was momentarily stunned. Someone in the Northern Garrison Command was connected to this organization? Wait, something happened at the City Guards Institution, and the higher-ups ordered him to do something to divert attention. He wouldn't believe it if these two things weren't connected. If it was someone in the City Guards Institution who was connected to the organization, then the order was easy to understand. Obviously, that person in the Northern Garrison Command was very important to this organization. Only by diverting Li Ziyu's attention could they better protect that person. Zheng Tianqing felt that he was really a genius. He could actually infer so much information from just a few words. The situation is unclear, but we have already prepared for the worst. That's why we have the current plan. Zheng Tianqing nodded, pretending to be profound. Then he casually asked, "Young Governor Yu, how's the progress of what you wanted to do this time?" "It's going very well. But if something really happened to that person in the Northern Garrison Command, I'm afraid there will be a lot of variables." "Tianqing, will you also be responsible for this matter this time? If you're in charge, I think the possibility of success will be higher." Yu Ziqing answered Zheng Tianqing casually without any doubt. Moreover, Yu Ziqing finally had the opportunity to mention this matter. He wanted to seize the opportunity to continue his journey of shifting the blame. These two guys were also interesting. One wanted to inquire about this matter indirectly, and the other was racking his brains to get rid of this matter. If they could make it clear, perhaps they could hit it off. This matter has been mentioned to me by the higher-ups, but my main priority is to complete this operation. If young Governor Yu needs my help, you can let me know at any time. I will definitely do my best to provide assistance. After all, we are all working for the organization. Zheng Tianqing patted his chest righteously. In fact, he really wanted to directly ask what Yu Ziqing was doing. Unfortunately, he didn't dare to ask so obviously. If this matter was spread to the organization, who knew what would happen? Yu Ziqing was secretly happy. It was enough to have Zheng Tianqing's words. When the time came, he could ask him to help and slowly let him become the leader. Then, he could take the opportunity to withdraw. Unfortunately, in this case, it seemed that there was no way to leave the extreme North Island tomorrow. It seemed that he could only keep a distance from Lin Yi and not give him a chance to deal with him. That being said, it was still very difficult to carry out the plan of stirring up trouble without giving Lin Yi a chance to make a move. Yu Ziqing and Aunt Lon looked at each other again. Both of them had the same meaning in their eyes, delay. Thinking about it carefully, if something happened to the Northern Garrison Command, and if the person introduced to this organization had a problem, then Yu Ziqing's matter certainly did not need to continue. If it did not stir up trouble for a day or two, the auction would be over. At that time, it would not be strange for the two of them to directly return to the East Continent. After having an idea, Yu Ziqing began to talk in circles with Zheng Tianqing. They did not come up with any effective plan until dawn. The auction on the fourth day was about to begin. Lin Yi walked slowly on the road to the auction house with Languza and Wei Shinjin. After sending Li Ziyu back yesterday, he ran around the extreme North Island a few times and searched back and forth with his divine sense. However, he did not find any trace of that burly man, as if this guy had disappeared into thin air. Based on the previous deep underground passage, Lin Yi deliberately penetrated his divine sense 100 or 200 meters underground, but unfortunately, he did not find anything new. Chapter 59-54. Languza tossed something into his mouth as he scanned his surroundings with his divine sense. Yesterday, he had let that fellow who had transformed into a spiritual beast slip away. Thus, he was still very serious about searching for clues today. As long as he was able to be scanned by his divine sense, based on the spiritual beast aura on that fellow's body, there was absolutely no place for him to hide. "Boss, what do you think the guy yesterday is? He's actually faster than me. Of course, if he goes to the sea, I can chase him back and forth a few times in a minute." Languza's speed was really not his strong point on land, so he was still very dissatisfied. Lin Yi smiled faintly. I guess it is some kind of spirit beast in terms of speed. Otherwise, even if it is on land, it will not be faster than you. Languza was still very pleased with these words. It didn't matter even if he knew that the boss was comforting him. Unfortunately, he didn't find that bastard spirit beast along the way. Otherwise, this fight would definitely be very comfortable. After the three people entered the fifth box, the auction soon began. After 3 days of auction, the heat was still not reduced. From the beginning, it was very hot. Unfortunately, except for the soul wood, Lenny didn't care about anything else, so there were only a few opportunities for him to make a move. In the sixth box, Yu Ziqing also looked at the auction stage below absent-mindedly. He didn't have any interest at all. Originally, he didn't want to participate in the auction. Lin, he was next door. He really didn't want to be so close to this dangerous guy. But Zheng Tianqing kept talking with him about how to make trouble on the island in the extreme north to divert Li Ziyu's attention, forcing him to come and stay next door to Lin, instead of continuing to discuss some bullshit plan with Zheng Tianqing. But not long after the auction began, the micro-communication device in his ear rang, and a low male voice directly appeared in his ear. Young Master you still have the mood to participate in the auction? Why didn't you cooperate with Zheng Tianqing to make trouble on the island and divert the attention of the Li family? Yu Ziqing suddenly sat up straight. Listening to this guy, he knew that he should be on the island in the extreme north. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to grasp the situation so accurately. It was estimated that the communication distance of this communication device couldn't be too far. Please watch your tone. I'm not a member of your organization. Don't use that commanding tone to talk to this young master. Yu Ziqing clearly expressed his displeasure. In reality, Night Moon City only had the status of a collaborator. They had no intention of joining anyone else's organization. The deep male voice was silent for a moment before he continued. You're right, but don't forget, we have an agreement between us. We've done what we should do, and I hope young city lord can also do what you should do. Tell me first, what happened to the Shangwei Institute last night? Is the person I introduced okay? Yu Ziqing did not answer the other party's question, but asked the key question. There was an accident, and now the Li family has isolated that place. Although he hasn't been exposed yet, he can't be of much help. So I need you to divert the attention of the Li family, and I may need you to complete the rest of the things yourself, the deep male voice said slowly. His tone was still very annoying to Yu Ziqing. But now was not the time to care about this. Yu Ziqing took a deep breath and put forward his own idea. Without the cooperation of the internal people, even if I know what to do, there's no way I can do it. I can't do what you said. I'm sorry, I have to go back to the East Continent today. Not to mention the dangerous guy Lin, he was watching from the side. Just the thing that he needed to do was enough to kill him without a burial place. If the other party did not offer a bargaining chip that Night Moon City could not refuse, Yu Ziqing would not need to get involved in this mess. His father had told him to try his best not to provoke the people of the Leaf family in the extreme north. If he really did that thing, it would not be a matter of provoking them, but a situation where the Leaf family of the extreme north would not rest until one of them was dead. Young Master maybe you should think about the consequences of going back today. The deep male voice chuckled, as if he had Yu Ziqing in the bag. Do you think that you can easily withdraw now? Don't be naive. You have already been involved in this matter. Since it has already started, there is no way to stop it. Otherwise, Night Moon City will not only offend the Leaf family in the extreme north, but also offend our organization. Do you really think that Night Moon City can remain unscathed under the revenge of these two parties? Yu Ziqing was secretly shocked. He had to admit that this guy's words were very reasonable. If he insisted on leaving, he would really offend both parties at the same time. Although Night Moon City was powerful, it might not be able to withstand such a blow. What kind of organization are you? Don't talk to me about the Auction Association of South Continent anymore. No one is a fool. Tell me your real identity. Yu Ziqing thought for a moment and put forward his request coldly. Previously, the deep male voice had been contacting him in the name of the Auction Association of South Continent. He said that the Auction Association of South Continent was originally going to hold a grand auction, but it was taken by the island of the extreme north. After this top-level auction, even if the Auction Association of South Continent reluctantly held an auction, it would not be able to attract enough people to participate. After all, people who could participate in the top-level auction were not always available. After the island of the extreme north consumed a lot of people, it was self-evident how many people would be left. But as the plan went on, Yu Ziqing felt that something was wrong. How could a mere auction association have so much power? Were they trying to ruin the auction of the island of the extreme north? Obviously, they wanted to swallow the entire island of the extreme north. Okay? The deep male voice chuckled and said, "Young master, you are thinking too much. I am indeed a member of the Auction Association of South Continent, but I can also tell you that there is an even more powerful organization behind our association. I can't tell you the specific details unless you are willing to join us. Don't worry, you're the young master of UUS City. Joining our organization will not bring shame to your identity. I believe that UUS City is really nothing in your eyes." His words were not polite at all, but Yu Ziqing felt that he was speaking the truth. He didn't know why, but he had this intuition. Aunt Lon turned to Yu Ziqing and winked at him, hinting him not to agree to any of the requests of the man. Even if she couldn't hear the man's words, she could guess that it was definitely not a good thing. Yu Ziqing shook his head slightly in response to Aunt Lan's concern. He then said, "If you want me to join you, just the previous conditions are not enough. Shouldn't you show me more power? Otherwise, as the young master of UUS City, do you think it is necessary for me to join an organization that is inferior to UUS City?" Chapter 59-55. What you said makes sense. It doesn't matter. It's normal to have such doubts. I'm not asking you to join in now. What I want is for you to complete the contents of our agreement. I don't care how you do it. Anyway, you must complete it before tomorrow's dawn. Otherwise, it will be regarded as your failure. You know what the consequences will be." The deep male voice was very indifferent, and he even threatened Yu Ziqing. Yu Ziqing was extremely angry, but there was nothing he could do. He could only grit his teeth and agree. Now he wanted to go to Zheng Tianqing to discuss the problem of making trouble in the extreme North Island. If he did not make some noise, how could he complete the task in one day? Moreover, Zheng Tianqing, the idiot follower, had said that he could go to him for help when he needed it. Now was the time when he needed it. Yu Ziqing, who was feeling depressed and angry, looked up at the projection array formation in the hall. It showed that the bid was 5 million spirit jades. He didn't know what was being auctioned, so he directly called out 50 million spirit jades. He was in a bad mood, so he wanted to smash people with spirit jades. The person who bid before wanted to cry, but had no tears. Huang Wenjing had already bid for the second time, and it was about to be finalized. Where did this idiot come from? He directly added more than 30 million spirit jades. The original bid was not even 20 million spirit jades. "Young master, what's going on? What did you agree to?" Aunt Lon had been anxious for a long time. Seeing Yu Ziqing bid, she knew that the negotiation was over, so she quickly asked. As for the 50 million spirit jades, it was a small matter. She could just throw it to the roadside beggars. Yu Ziqing angrily slapped the tea table next to him. "I have to agree. That guy threatened me. If I don't agree, our Moonlight City will be in trouble. There is no other way. I have to complete it before tomorrow's dawn." Aunt Lan's face suddenly became ugly. Complete it before tomorrow's dawn? She knew how difficult it was. Even if Uncle O was still here, it would not be so easy, let alone the two of them now. "Aunt Lon, don't worry about it. I know what I'm doing. I, Yu Ziqing, am not so easily troubled. I will definitely solve it smoothly." Yu Ziqing clenched his fists hard and then completed the transaction of 50 million for an unknown item. Wei Shinjin, who was in booth 5, clicked his tongue in admiration and said, "It seems that Yu Ziqing is also a stupid person with a lot of money. Spending 50 million spirit jades on some trash. What a waste." Languza had a look of approval on his face. That's right. 50 million spirit jades. How much food can you buy? That's practically a mountain. imagining a mountain of meat right in front of him. Lengaza even revealed an intoxicated expression. Lin, he could only express that he was speechless. The next item came out. It was a piece of metal the size of a wash basin. The surface of the metal was constantly flowing with ripples, and its shape was constantly changing. Starry sky, flowing flame gold, an extremely rare casting material. But the most precious thing about this thing is not its rarity, but its ability to directly cover the surface of any refined weapon, armor, props, etc., forming a perfect additional layer of defense. It can also provide the ability to fire attacks. At the same time, it is immune to a certain level of fire attacks. It can also improve the attributes of the covered item. The starting price is 10 million spirit jades, and each bid must not be less than 500,000 spirit jades. Huang Wenjing introduced with a smile, and then announced the start of the auction. Young City Lord Yu, who was in a bad mood, directly bid 30 million spirit jades. He looked like he was not short of money. After listening to Huang Wenjing's introduction, Lin Yi was very interested in this starry sky, flowing flame gold. He wondered if it would have any effect on the high-tech flying saucer refined by Han Jingjing. After buying the soul cultivation wood, he was going to use the flying saucer to fly back to the Middle Island. If this starry sky, flowing flame gold, could improve the performance of the flying saucer, then it would be a good choice to spend some spirit jades to buy it. 40 million spirit jades. Lin Yi also felt rich and overbearing at this moment. As such, he did not care about tens of millions of spirit jades. When Yu Ziqing saw the bid from booth number 5, his heart suddenly trembled. What he feared the most right now was that he would have to deal with Lin Yi. If he tried to snipe at Lin Yi like he did at the beginning of the auction, he would not dare to do such a thing. Therefore, when Lin Yi bid, Yu Ziqing immediately extinguished his anger. In any case, he had no interest in the starry sky flowing flame gold. As such, he decided to just let Lin Yi bid. Yu Ziqing's booth number 6 went silent. Lin Yi thought that he could easily win the bid for the starry sky, flowing flame gold. He did not expect that another booth would add another 2 million spirit jades. Booth number 8 also followed suit and added another 3 million spirit jades. It looked like the value of this starry sky, flowing flame gold, had been underestimated. Unexpectedly, so many people liked it. It was not inferior to Lin Yi's spirit-tempering pill. However, thinking about it, this thing could directly improve the attributes of weapons and armors. Although it was an external item, it was not much different from a spirit-tempering pill's effect of tempering one's spiritual consciousness. In fact, the effect might even be better. Therefore, it was normal for so many people to bid for it. Lin Yi was just about to add another 10 million spirit jades when the sound-amplifying array formation in booth number 8 suddenly turned on. I am Morningstar City's Lu Dachong. I have taken a fancy to this starry sky flowing flame gold. Moreover, I only have this many spirit jades. If anyone wants to be coveted by me, then just continue bidding. This smelly rogue. Lin Yi couldn't help but laugh. He had initially thought that Lu Dachong had curbed his character after arriving at the Northern Island. However, he never expected that he would still be the same as before. He even dared to bid for it in the Northern Islands auction. However, this old rogue's strength had increased a lot. He had already reached the peak of the mountain opening intermediate stage. His cultivation speed was quite good. He should have had some fortuitous encounters in the past 2 years. For the sake of their acquaintance, Lin Yi didn't try to tear down his stage. If Lu Dachong could win it, then he would go back and extort some money from him. In any case, half of that large clump of starry sky, flowing flame gold, was more than enough. If someone didn't ignore Lu Dachong, it wouldn't matter if Lin Yi continued bidding. At that time, it wouldn't be as if he didn't give him face. Huang Wenjing on the stage warned in displeasure. The VIP in booth number 8, please don't make such threatening and intimidating remarks in the auction. Otherwise, our auction house has the right to disqualify you from the auction. A similar thing had happened before. Although Zheng Dongjue of the Pill Hall ended up in a sorry state, it didn't mean that the auction house would continue to tolerate this kind of thing. Therefore, Huang Wenjing immediately responded with a very tough attitude. Chapter 59-56. Lin Yi snickered in his heart. Who said that this old scoundrel was impulsive and brainless? This was clearly an extremely shrewd old fox. He knew that making him owe him a favor was much more precious than a mere few tens of millions of spirit jades. Perhaps this Lu Dachong had originally bid for this starry sky flowing flame gold to make friends with Lin Yi. Lu Dachong should have already known about the booth Lin Yi was in. Seeing Lin Yi increase the price by a large margin, he understood that Lin Yi was very interested in the starry sky flowing flame gold. Therefore, he pretended to be stubborn and forcibly bid for it. Otherwise, Lu Dachong would not have automatically sent out the starry sky flowing flame gold without even giving Lin Yi a chance to speak. In that case, it would be impolite for me to refuse. Lin Yi also did not stand on ceremony with Lu Dachong. After putting the starry sky flowing flame gold into his storage bag, he also returned the favor and gave his promise. Old Lu, if you need to refine any medicinal pills in the future, feel free to look for me. Even if I can't do it for free, at least I can give you a discount. Lu Dachong immediately felt overjoyed. He had made friends with Lin Yi in order to get this promise. A profound, ranked Grade 2 alchemist would not help you refine pills just because you gave them a reward. Sometimes, even if you gave them a lot of money, you might not be able to ask them to refine a medicinal pill for you. Ha ha ha. Master Lin is really straightforward. This old Lu has a very straightforward temperament. In the future, I will definitely have to trouble you. If you need any help from this old Lu, Master Lin, feel free to speak up. I will absolutely not refuse. Lu Dachong patted his chest with a pung pung pong sound. The people passing by looked at him strangely. However, after he glared at them, they immediately sped up and left this place. Today, Li Ziyu did not come to participate in the auction. Most likely, yesterday's matter had not come to an end yet. Therefore, he could not split himself into two. Lin Yi decided to look for him alone to understand some of the progress. Lu Dachong saw that Lin Yi was not in the mood to say more, so he took Lu Xiaozhong and left. As usual, Wei Xinjin slipped away to look for Shang Yuhua. Lin Yi took Lang Guza directly to the Li family's mansion in the extreme north. If Li Ziyu wasn't there, he could talk to Li Zaixiang. Master Lin, I wonder if you're here for the young island lord or the island lord today? When the guard of the Li clan saw Lin Yi, they hurriedly greeted him respectfully. This was a person that both the island lord and the young island lord valued. Who would dare to slight him? Is your young island lord here? Lin Yi asked casually. After all, he was more familiar with Li Ziyu. It would be best if he could find him. The guard smiled and shook his head, then made a gesture to invite him in. The young island lord has not returned since he went out this morning. Master Lin, why don't you go to the living room and rest for a while? I think the young island lord will be back soon. Or should I inform the island lord? Lin Yi and Lang Guza waited in the living room for a while before Li Zaixiang walked out quickly. Ha ha ha. Nephew Lin, you haven't forgotten that I'm still a patient these 2 days. Could it be that you're afraid that I'll force you to refine pills? Before Li Zaixiang came in, he laughed heartily and joked. Uncle Li must be joking. If I could refine it, why would I need you to force me? Lin Yi got up and respectfully cupped his fist to greet him. Then, he introduced Lang Guza. Li Zaixiang also warmly greeted Lang Guza, and then signaled the two to sit down and talk. Nephew Lin, I heard from my stinky brat that you have helped our Li family a lot these 2 days. I won't say too many polite words. Anyway, you and that stinky brat are like brothers. In the future, the extreme North Island will be your home. I have already ordered people to clean up a small courtyard next to that stinky brat's residence. If you don't mind, you can be his companion. Li Zaixiang smiled gently. These words were not said to win over Lin Yi, but from the bottom of his heart. Lin Yi was also slightly moved. He could feel that Li Zaixiang's words were not mixed with the slightest utilitarian heart. It was completely like an elder talking to a younger generation. Thank you, Uncle Li, for your kindness. If I have time, Lin Yi will definitely come and visit you in brotherly often. Lin Yi smiled and cupped his fist to express his thanks. However, he was destined not to stay in one place for a long time. So, He could only express his gratitude for Li Zixiang's invitation. Nephew Lin, you must have come today for the matter of these 2 days, right? I wonder if there are any new discoveries? After the greetings, Li Zixiang went straight to the point. Although this matter was handled by Li Ziyu, he, as the island lord, was also paying close attention to the development of the situation. He even had more information than Li Ziyu. Lin, he said in his heart, I came here to inquire about some information. How could there be any new discoveries? Uncle Li, in fact, I want to see how the progress is on your side. Is there anything I can help with? Lin, he told the truth. But before Li Zixiang could speak, there was a violent explosion in the center of the extreme North Island, and there was a powerful aftermath of the battle. Li Zixiang and Lin Yi's complexion changed at the same time. The two people's spiritual senses swept out instantly. They found that the fluctuations of the battle were not far from the auction house. Moreover, the 5 cultivators involved were not weak. 2 were at the early stage of mountain opening, and 3 were at the peak of the late stage of profound ascension. If it were not for the defensive restrictions on the buildings on the extreme North Island, it would have been razed to the ground by these 5 guys. How dare you? How dare you fight in my extreme North Island? Do you really think that our extreme North Island is a tiger that has fallen to the plains? Li Zixiang stood up with a cold expression. He cupped his hands towards Lin Yi and said, Nephew Lin, it seems that I need to deal with it personally. You sit for a while. I will be back soon. Then, let's have a few drinks. Uncle Li, let's go together. Although I don't know what happened, there may be new clues. Lin Yi already had doubts about this inexplicable fight. How could the people who could come to the extreme North Island lack self-control? It was precisely because the extreme North Island forbade the use of force. Therefore, those who had grudges would come to the extreme North Island to participate in the auction. Now that there was an inexplicable fight, it was obvious that something special had happened. Perhaps it was just a coincidence, but Lin Yi was more willing to believe that there was something fishy about it. Languza swallowed the pastry in his hand and stood up with an excited expression. He thought that there was finally a fight to fight. There was someone he could beat up. This time, he must not miss such a good opportunity. All right, Nephew Lin, you can come after me. I will go first. Li Zixiang nodded and did not say anything more. His figure flashed and directly disappeared from the place. Lin Yi's heart trembled. He had not been able to see through Li Zixiang's strength. However, the aura that burst out a moment ago was at least at the earth opening stage. Chapter 59-57. Lu Dachong laughed and said, Little girl, when did I threaten or intimidate you? I had only expressed my love for the starry sky, flowing flame gold. If I couldn't get it, I would definitely think about it day and night, unable to sleep. I would then constantly think about the person who obtained the starry sky, flowing flame gold. These were all facts. How did it become a threat? You can't falsely accuse a good person. Lin, he suddenly felt happy. This old scoundrel, he really hadn't changed at all. His pestering skills were still so good. Although Huang Wenjing, this beauty, also relied on her mouth to make a living, but if she wanted to arm wrestle with this old scoundrel, it would probably be very difficult. However, Huang Wenjing didn't want to entangle with Lu Dachong at all, and directly responded in a cold tone. Senior Lu, please behave yourself. Apart from the normal bidding, don't make any personal comments, otherwise your bid will be invalid. Hey, little girl, are you threatening this old man? Call out the head of your auction house. Even if Li Zixiang is here, he would have to speak politely to this old man. You little girl, are you trying to provoke me? Lu Dachong's voice suddenly showed a bit of anger, but Linny knew that it was all an act. This old guy wouldn't get angry easily. His external performance was just an illusion. Whoever believed him would be a fool. Huang Wenjing remained unmoved. Even the smile that she had been maintaining all this time disappeared, but this cold and delicate appearance looked quite fun. 455 spirit jades going once. Is there any friend who wants to increase the price? The starry sky flowing flame gold is a rare treasure. Huang Wenjing spoke in an unhurried manner. Since the start of the auction, she had never incited others to bid during the countdown. Today, Lu Dachong had angered her, so she deliberately did this. Regarding Huang Wenjing's approach, obviously no one felt that there was anything wrong with it. They even hoped that the 5th or 6th booth would continue to bid against the arrogant Lu Dachang. These two booths obviously didn't lack money and weren't afraid of trouble. Unfortunately, after they respectively bid once, there was no movement. 45 million spirit jades going twice. Huang Wenjing's eyes swept across the private room on the 2nd floor, and there was a hint of disappointment in them. It seemed that Lu Dachang's threat had worked. Otherwise, there would have been a new offer. For such a large clump of starry sky, flowing flame gold, for 1,550 spirit jades was definitely worth it. Even an additional 30 to 40 spirit jades would be within the normal range. Unfortunately, with that damn Lu Dachang's interference, it seemed unlikely that anyone would offer a higher price. Knowing that there was no point in delaying for more time, Huang Wenjing finally announced the 3rd bid. She then finalized the deal, officially confirming that the starry sky, flowing flame gold, now belonged to Lu Dachang. Languza asked curiously, "Boss, do you know that scoundrel? He didn't seem like a good person, right? Even if you know him, you don't have to be afraid of him, right?" "Who said I'm afraid of him? I just feel that since there are free things, why should I spend my own spiritual jades? Wouldn't it be interesting to squeeze something out of such a scoundrel?" Lin showed a faint smile and explained to Languza. Languza's eyes suddenly lit up, and he asked with excitement, "Boss, that old scoundrel wouldn't agree so easily, right? If he acts arrogant at that time, can I beat him up? I don't think that old scoundrel would give you such an opportunity." "Well, let's not talk about him for now. Let's continue looking at the next auction item." Lin showed a faint smile. In his heart, he didn't think that Lu Dachang would refuse him. At most, he would exchange some ordinary medicinal pills for it. The next auction item was also something that Lin wasn't interested in. Things like the starry sky flowing flame gold were really rare, so he didn't make any moves. Time passed by unconsciously, and the 4th day of the auction also came to an end. It seemed that the soul-nourishing wood would only appear on the last day. With nothing to do, Lin prepared to continue looking for Li Ziyu to ask about the matters of the extreme North Island. After the auction ended tomorrow, he would definitely return to the extreme North Island. However, Ho Guanxi, Kai Zhongyang, Hong Zhong, and the others might stay for a few more days. It would be troublesome if something happened here and trapped them. When walking out of the box, Lin had not yet gone to look for Lu Dachang when he saw this fellow walking towards him with his son, Lu Xiaozhou. "Ah, isn't this Master Lin? I heard that you're also on the North Island, and I wanted to pay you a visit. It's a pity that I couldn't find you. Today, I finally get to see you." Lu Dachang laughed heartily as he walked over. He had also heard about the friendship between Lin and Zhuang Yifan. Zhuang Yifan was a big shot in the East Continent, completely different from him, a mere guest elder of Morningstar City. Therefore, in his eyes, Lin Yi's value naturally rose. Not to mention that Lin Yi himself was a mystic rank 2 alchemist. In the East Continent's Yellow Steppe Sea, a mystic rank 2 alchemist status was not inferior to Zhuang Yifan's. "Elder Lu, nice to meet you." Lin Yi smiled faintly. Lu Xiaozhong stepped forward and saluted, and he also nodded lightly in response. "Hey, is Master Lin in Box 5? I didn't know about it before. If I had known about it, I would have come here to pay a visit to Master Lin." Lu Dachang pretended to know about Lin Yi's box for the first time, and then nodded to Wei Xinjin and Languza beside Lin. Since they could follow Lin Yi, it was necessary for him to build a good relationship with them. Lin Yi was thinking about how to get some starry sky flowing flame gold from Lu Dachang's hands, so he also greeted this old scoundrel with a smile. The few of them talked as they walked out. By the way, if Master Lin is in Box 5, it seems that he was also interested in this thing, right? If you need it, then I will get it to Master Lin. Lu Dachang took 2 steps forward and suddenly thought of something. He took out a jade box with restrictions on it and handed it to Lin Yi. Lin Yi swept it with his spiritual consciousness and found that the jade box contained the starry sky, flowing flame gold, and it was not missing even a little bit. How can I accept something that Elder Lu had painstakingly bid for? Although Lin Yi originally wanted to get some starry sky flowing flame gold from Lu Dachong, but this old scoundrel gave it all away so easily, which made him feel a little puzzled. Lu Dachong's eyes flashed slightly. Although he looked rough on the surface, he had a very meticulous mind. Lin Yi did not open the jade box, yet he knew what was inside. This detail let him understand that although Lin Yi had not yet reached the mountain opening realm, his spiritual consciousness was not inferior to his own by even half a point. In fact, it might even be a little stronger. Ha ha ha. Master Lin, you're too polite. Just call me Old Lu. It's just a small thing. With our friendship, why would I care about such things? Come on, accept it quickly. Otherwise, this Old Lu will think that you're looking down on me. Lu Dachong did not give any explanation and stuffed the jade box into Lin Yi's hands with an expression that said, "Don't despise it." Chapter 59-58. The northernmost island was able to stand outside of the 5 Heaven Step Islands and become an independent money-squandering establishment. Li Zixiang thought that the island lord really couldn't be underestimated. If his internal injuries and old injuries were healed, his strength would be improved. Boss, let's go, otherwise we won't even get the soup. Languza also felt Li Zixiang's strength and suddenly became anxious. The strongest two in that battle were only at the mountain opening stage. If Li Zixiang wanted to quell the dispute, it would only take a few breaths. Languza didn't want to miss this rare opportunity to fight. Lin Yi nodded and rushed to the scene with Languza. Fortunately, the distance was relatively close. In less than a dozen breaths, the two arrived at the scene of the battle. What made Languza depressed was that Li Zixiang really solved the battle in an instant. The 5 practitioners were all knocked down to the ground. They didn't even have a chance to fight back. The northernmost island is a fair and just place. Everyone can pay the price here and get everything they want, but everyone needs to abide by the rules of the northernmost island. Li Zixiang's face was as calm as water. His cold eyes glanced at the audience. When he said the words, "kill without mercy," everyone felt a chill in their hearts. For example, this one prohibits anyone from fighting in the commercial area of the northernmost island for any reason. Those who violate it will be imprisoned, fined, or even killed without mercy, depending on the seriousness of the circumstances. The 5 powerful cultivators who had fallen to the ground were even more pale. They wanted to say something to beg for mercy, but their strength was sealed by Li Zixiang, so they couldn't even open their mouths. For a moment, they were nervous, not knowing what kind of punishment they would face. Although imprisonment was shameful, it was much better than losing their lives. But Li Zixiang obviously felt that their matter was a bit big. Ordinary punishment was not enough to warn others. In view of the relatively wide scope of their fight, the impact caused is very bad. I, Li Zixiang, in the name of the northernmost island lord, announce that they will be sentenced to death without mercy. Before his voice fell, Li Zixiang flicked his fingers. 5-finger winds shot out and aimed at the eyebrows of the 5 people. Once hit, they would definitely die. Uncle Li, wait. Lin Yi had just arrived at the scene when he saw Li Zixiang announce the punishment in a fit of rage and then directly make a move to kill. He was immediately shocked and hurriedly opened his mouth to stop him. Li Zixiang's fingers moved and the 5-finger winds were slightly deflected, avoiding the 5 people on the ground. Instead, they pierced through their shoulders. Nephew Lin, do you know them? Li Zixiang's expression was calm as he looked at Lin Yi. No one knew what he was thinking. However, just a moment ago, Li Zixiang had already announced that these 5 people would be killed without mercy. Even if Lin Yi pleaded for leniency, he might not be able to change his verdict. After all, the rules of the extreme North Island could not be broken. However, he had no choice but to give Lin Yi face for the time being. Uncle Li, I don't know them, but this is too much of coincidence. I think we should interrogate them and see if we can find any clues. Who knows, we might get some unexpected rewards. Lin Yi used telepathy to communicate with Li Zixiang so that the news wouldn't leak out. Li Zixiang suddenly understood. He was too angry just now and did not consider the Slayer. It seemed that he had been in closed-door training for too long, and his brain was a little rusty. Fortunately, he had announced the charges before executing these people. Otherwise, during the battle, he would not have confined their cultivation, but directly killed them with a slap. However, it seemed that it was not appropriate to change what he said just now. Li Zixiang was secretly annoyed. At this age, his killing intent was still too heavy. No wonder he would be possessed by the devil during cultivation. It seemed that after going back, he needed to properly cultivate his mind for a period of time before he could continue to cultivate. Just when he was in a dilemma, Li Ziyu hurried over with a group of northern garrison guards. "Old man, you're finally willing to come out? As a young master, I have to work hard for the auction every day, but you are always doing God knows what. Have you ever considered my feelings?" Li Ziyu was secretly surprised when he saw that his father had finally come out to take care of things. However, his mouth still muttered some words that did not match his heart. "Brat, you know that I'm not feeling well, yet you still make me worry so much. Since you are here, I will leave these troublemakers to you. I will go back and have a good rest. Let's go." Li Zixiang laughed and scolded. He just happened to throw this difficult matter to his son. At the same time, he vaguely gave Li Ziyu a look. After Li Zixiang finished speaking, he said goodbye to Lin Yi and Languza, then turned around and left in a hurry. Although Li Zixiang and Li Ziyu, this strange father and son pair, did not behave properly when they were together, in fact, the two of them absolutely understood each other. With just a look, Li Ziyu had already understood each other. "Damn, old man, you only know how to be lazy. This young master has been ordered around by you for so many years at such a young age." Li Ziyu nagged at Li Zixiang's back discontentedly. Then he pointed to the northern garrison guards beside him and said, "You guys go and put these guys in prison first." The old man said that they should be killed without mercy, but this young master will put them in prison for 8 to 10 years. Lin Yi was secretly amused. The father and son really had a tacit understanding. They had resolved the previous embarrassing situation while laughing and scolding. If he had not transmitted his voice to Li Zixiang and Li Ziyu, he would also think that it was a melodramatic play of a rebellious son going against his father. Canceling the island master's order in such a manner, not only would no one say anything, most people would even smile knowingly. After all, everyone had grown up in their youth, and many of them were already parents, so they had a deep understanding of this situation. "Brother Lin, what happened just now?" After Li Ziyu ordered the northern garrison guards to disperse the crowd, he walked to Lin Yi and asked in a low voice. He came late, so he only heard Lin Yi hinting at him not to kill people. He did not know the details, but the old man's eyes seemed to also want him to ask Lin Yi. "Let's go and ask those 5 guys first. I don't know the details now." Lin Yi also said in a low voice, and pulled Li Ziyu to the direction of the prison. Languza looked dissatisfied, and he bitterly followed behind. He finally had a chance to fight, but he could not make it because he was too slow. It was the same with the shape-shifting spirit beast last time. It seemed that he had to find a way to increase his speed by 6%. In a distant attic, Zhang Tianqing and Yu Ziqing regretfully shook their heads. They seemed to be very dissatisfied with Li Zixiang's sudden appearance. What a pity. It was supposed to be a big mess. I didn't expect Li Zixiang to appear so quickly. Speaking of which, the island owner of the extreme North Island is really powerful. 2 mountain opening stage masters were fighting, but he directly intervened and knocked them down with 1 move. This strength is too strong. Yu Ziqing sighed softly, and he became less and less confident in his plan. Chapter 59:59. With such a powerful master around, even Uncle O would not be able to stop Li Zixiang, let alone Aunt Lan. Don't worry, creating chaos is not the goal. The goal is to let the Li family in the extreme north investigate the cause of the chaos, so that they could be distracted. Zhang Tianqing was quite proud of himself. The battle between the 5 cultivators was caused by his poisoning, and the plan this time was also formulated by him. The only regret was that the poison was provided to him by the organization. If he could concoct it himself, it would be very awesome. It It was a poison that could even kill a cultivator at the opening mountain stage. If there were enough of it, Zhang Tianqing believed that he could definitely unify Middle Island and sweep across the East Continent. Unfortunately, his superior said that the ingredients for the poison were precious and difficult to make, so there were not many in stock. He could only use 6 portions, and they were all given to Zhang Tianqing this time. Zhang Tianqing had just used 1 portion, and the effect was really good. He could not wait to find the next target. He was even considering if he could give one to Lin Yi. That would be such a beautiful scene. However, when he thought that Lin Yi's detoxification method seemed to be better than his own, he immediately gave up the idea. Child Zhang, you have to stir up the chaos as soon as possible. Otherwise, our plan won't work. Aunt Lan was a little anxious. It was getting dark, and tomorrow's dawn was getting closer and closer. If they could not divert the attention of the Li family in the extreme north to these things, the possibility of their failure was basically 100%. The consequences were too serious for Yu Ziqing to bear. Don't worry, in the next hour, Li Ziyu and the North Garrison will keep stopping the fights, and then they will start to investigate the cause. Take this opportunity to finish what you need to do. When I'm done, I can go and help you. Zhang Tianqing was very enthusiastic. The more he did not know, the more he wanted to know. If he was not the only one who could do the poisoning, he would definitely follow Yu Ziqing closely. Yu Ziqing also wanted to cry, but had no tears. He wanted to F***king throw this matter to Zhang Tianqing, but time waits for no man. If he couldn't take advantage of the opportunity that Zhang Tianqing created, when Li Ziyu came back to his senses, it would be completely over. Tianqing, you are indeed loyal, but you won't be able to make it in time. As long as you can attract the attention of the Li family and the Northern Sentinel, it will be a great achievement. Yu Ziqing sighed and patted Zhang Tianqing's shoulder with regret. Zhang Tianqing also felt that it was a pity. They were already so close to the truth, but they had no choice but to distance themselves again. Young master, we don't have much time left. We have to prepare for the operation. Please leave the rest to young Master Zhang. Aunt Lan nodded politely to Zhang Tianqing, then pulled Yu Ziqing away. Zhang Tianqing was quite satisfied with Aunt Lan's attitude. In the past, this woman had never given him any face. After all, whether it was his strength or status, Zhang Tianqing was not worth mentioning in Aunt Lan's eyes. Now, Aunt Lan was begging Zhang Tianqing, which greatly satisfied his vanity. If it wasn't for the organization's mission, he might have hesitated a few more times before agreeing to help. Don't worry, I won't let you down. Zhang Tianqing laughed and casually cupped his hands to bid farewell to Ziqing and Aunt Lan. Yu Ziqing's face darkened. You can go now. You don't even know how to say something auspicious. I don't know what the F***king organization sees in this idiot follower. Is it because this idiot is innocent enough? In fact, Yu Ziqing also knew that although Zhang Tianqing's strength was not as good as his, and there was a huge gap between him and the real geniuses in the East Continent, Zhang Tianqing was really good at poisoning. Even if it was an unorthodox method, it could play a huge role when used in the right place. Maybe that was what the organization saw in him. After Ziqing and Aunt Lan left, the deep male voice came from the communicator in Zhang Tianqing's ear again. Zhang Tianqing, you have to do it well. Our organization has handed over all the drugs to you. If you can't do it well, the organization will reevaluate your ability. Remember, this is your only chance. If you don't succeed, find another way. Got it. Zhang Tianqing curled his lips impatiently. I just felt a little better, but it was ruined by you again. What a bummer. Hurry up. After a while, all the people in the auction house will leave. Who are you going to target? The deep male voice could not help but raise his voice. Obviously, he was very dissatisfied with Zhang Tianqing's delay. From this detail, it could be seen that this person was definitely watching nearby. Otherwise, how could he know Zhang Tianqing's movements so well? Zhang Tianqing was shocked. He quickly agreed, jumped out of the building, and quickly ran to the crowded place. Lin Yi and Li Ziyu brought the 5 captured practitioners to the dungeon. They first detained one of them in the early stage of the mountain opening stage and interrogated him alone. Tell me, why did you want to fight in the extreme North Island? Don't you know the rules here? Li Ziyu personally went up and stared at this guy with cold eyes. Needless to say, that expression was exactly the same as when Li Zixiang announced the death penalty. He really was his biological son. This mountain opening stage powerhouse could not help but feel a chill in his heart. Although Li Ziyu's cultivation was similar to that of an ant in his eyes, now that his strength was restricted, any ordinary person could crush him like an ant. I didn't want to fight with anyone. I was completely forced to protect myself. Actually, if you ask the people nearby, you should know that I was really the passive defensive party. You people from the extreme North Island can't be unreasonable, right? This guy had a shadow in his heart about Li Zixiang. However, Li Ziyu's demeanor and appearance were extremely similar to Li Zixiang. If one had to describe it, it would be that Li Zixiang suddenly looked a lot younger. Therefore, this mountain opening stage powerhouse was completely suppressed by Li Ziyu when he opened his mouth. Because of this, what he said was somewhat credible. Lin Yi frowned slightly. If this guy was really passive defensive, then the problem could only be with the other mountain opening stage powerhouse. Brother Li, go and interrogate the other mountain opening stage powerhouse first. The other three mysterious ascension late stage peak are probably just following the two leaders. We won't be able to get anything out of them. Lin Yi used sound transmission to give a suggestion. Chapter 5960. Lin Yi was also on the side. He also wanted to know the truth as soon as possible. This matter itself was strange. However, before the two of them walked to another interrogation room, a northern guard rushed in. He came to the two of them and said, "Young Island Master, there are cultivators fighting in the commercial area again. This time, the Island Master has told us in advance that he will not come out unless it is an emergency. So, you need to personally command this battle." There are cultivators fighting again? Li Ziyu felt a headache. He had not figured out the situation here. And there was another one? The damn old man deliberately did not show up. Who was the Island Master of the extreme North Island? Lin Yi released his divine sense and found that there were two groups of people fighting in the commercial area. This time, there were more people, nearly 10. Although there were no mountain opening stage giants, they were basically masters of the mysterious ascending stage. Perhaps this was the reason why Li Zixiang did not make a move. A group of mysterious ascending stage guys were making trouble, and he, the Island Master of the Earth opening stage, had to make a move. The extreme North Island was indeed too weak. "Boss, let's go and deal with these small fries." Languza popped out from an unknown corner. He rolled up his sleeves and had an excited expression on his face. He was ready to fight at any moment. "Brother Li, leave the outside matters to me and Languza. You need to figure out the reason why these people are fighting as soon as possible. Since it is not an accident, the reason behind it is even more worth thinking about." Lin did not talk nonsense and directly told Li Ziyu their respective tasks. Languza was overjoyed. Finally, he had the opportunity to make a move. Now, he was afraid that Li Ziyu would not agree, so he looked at Li Ziyu eagerly. Li Ziyu had no objection. Of course, he could rest assured with Lin Yi's help. Moreover, it was very important to figure out the reason why these guys were fighting. "Brother Lin, then I'll leave it to you." Li Ziyu nodded decisively. At the same time, he ordered the Northern Guard, "Go and take some people with Master Lin. Be sure to listen to his command. At the same time, mobilize a Northern Guard to strengthen the patrols to avoid similar situations." "Yes, young master." The Northern Guard saluted and immediately went out to give the order. Lin Yi and Languza could not wait for the Northern Garrison Guards to arrive. They rushed to the scene first. At this moment, there were 9 cultivators present, and they were basically evenly matched. It was 4 against 5, and the side with fewer people was stronger. It was a well-matched situation. It was precisely because of this that the damage caused was maximized. If one side had an overwhelming advantage, the battle might have ended long before anyone arrived. Languza let out a strange cry. He didn't wait for Lin Yi's order and directly rushed into the battle. He didn't care which side they were on. He just wanted to beat up whoever was next to him. Lin Yi did not make a move. Instead, he fully activated his divine sense and carefully observed the people on the battlefield to see if there was anything unusual. At the same time, he searched for any suspicious people among the onlookers. Lang Gu's ability was completely invincible among those of the same level. Even if it was a giant in the mountain opening period, he could still wrestle with him. Hence, when he charged into the chaotic battle, he did not feel any pressure at all. He easily took down one of them. No matter which one was knocked down, it meant that the balance was broken. One side took the opportunity to retreat and wanted to leave the battle, but the other side did not give up and continued to attack. However, to Lin Yi's surprise, the side that did not give up was actually the group that Lang Gu had knocked down. Lang Gu, take them down. Don't waste time. Lin Yi saw something strange and directly told Lang Gu to finish the battle quickly. Lang Gu agreed. It was rare to have a chance to fight. He originally wanted to play for a while, but since the boss had spoken, he could only find a chance to play next time. Violent, vital energy exploded in an instant. Lang Gu was practically a human bulldozer. Wherever he went, resistance would be completely flattened. Within the span of a few breaths, these people were all lying on the ground, moaning and groaning. Boss, I did well, right? I didn't kill a single one. Lang Gu suddenly appeared beside Lin Yi. He clapped his hands and smiled, asking for credit. Did you fight to your heart's content? Lin Yi looked at Lang Gu with a smile that was not a smile. This guy fought for leisure and entertainment. What was there to ask for credit? I didn't enjoy it. Next time, boss, you have to let me do it. Lang Gu smiled embarrassedly and immediately booked the next opportunity to fight. What a jinx. Do you want next time? Lin Yi was also speechless. Li Ziyu was already in a terrible mess, and Lang Gu still wanted it next time. Could he think of something better? The soldiers of the Northern Guard rushed over, but they could only clean up the mess because the matter was already settled. Just like when Lin Yi and Lang Gu rushed over, Li Zixiang had already finished his work. Lang Gu was very satisfied with this. He finally experienced the treatment of a master like Li Zixiang. You guys take these troublemakers to the prison and let young Master Li interrogate them, especially those few. Lin Yi pointed at the few guys who were still pestering the Northern Guard. He also wanted to ask about the situation of Li Ziyu's interrogation. However, after 2 consecutive incidents, Lin Yi felt that this matter would not end so easily. Maybe something new would happen. Therefore, he wanted to continue patrolling with Lang Gu to nip it in the bud. Before that, Lin Yi wanted to ask the bystanders how the fight had happened. Perhaps he'd be able to get some useful clues from the witnesses. Friend, may I ask if you've been here from the beginning? Why are these people fighting? Lin Yi picked a cultivator who was closest to the fight, walked over, and asked politely. The cultivator who was asked by Lin Yi was also a mysterious ascension stage cultivator. His strength was around the peak of the late stage. He probably had just broken through not long ago and was not very stable. Seeing Lang Gu's power just now, he didn't dare to be slow in the face of Lin Yi's question. He hurriedly cupped his fists and replied, "That's right. I've been watching it from the very beginning until now. Come to think of it, it's quite strange. Those 2 groups of people were originally going their own ways and didn't seem to know each other at all, but the leader of the smaller group suddenly launched an attack on the other group." Lin Yi frowned slightly. Suddenly launched an attack? Could it be a premeditated surprise attack? But what the spectator said next immediately overturned this idea. Chapter 59-61. Why did that person suddenly attack the other party? Did anything strange happen before that? Lin Yi really couldn't figure out, so he could only continue to ask. Unfortunately, after this cultivator carefully recalled, he shook his head slightly apologetically, indicating that this was all he knew. Thank you. Lin Yi couldn't help it. He could only clasp his fist and thank him. Then he turned around and asked the other 2 onlookers. The answers he got were almost the same. It was basically consistent with what the first person said, and no one knew why the leader suddenly went crazy. Boss, do you think that guy will suddenly go crazy, and then he'll bite anyone he sees, just like the rabies in your secular world? Languza was rarely imaginative, and he was very active in providing an idea. There is also this possibility. If you can find a mad dog or something on the island in the far north, it is probably like this. Lin Yi smiled slightly and said perfunctorily. While he was talking, his divine sense suddenly discovered that in another place 3 streets away from here, there were another 6 mysterious ascending stage cultivators suddenly fighting, and they attacked without any warning. The party that was attacked was not prepared at all, and one of them was directly injured. Compared to the second wave of people who were fighting, they were obviously much more unlucky. Boss, someone is fighting again. Languza also noticed the fluctuations of the battle, and he immediately shouted excitedly. His expression of wanting to see the world in chaos made Lin Yi feel very embarrassed. But he didn't have time to talk to him. Lin Yi fully exerted the extreme butterfly micro-steps, and his whole person turned into an afterimage and flew out, and he jumped directly from the roof. Languza suddenly admired him. Boss is the boss. He can even think of such a shortcut. It is really much faster. So, he quickly followed up and almost collapsed the house. After a few ups and downs, the two had already arrived at the scene. Languza shouted, "Boss, I'm coming," and rushed into the battle again. Naturally, Lin Yi would not snatch the opportunity to fight. What he did was to use his divine sense to repeatedly check everyone nearby to see if there was anyone similar or overlapping with the previous one. Perhaps this was the key to solving the mystery. Unfortunately, no matter how Lin Yi checked, he couldn't find anything similar. This made him wonder if it was really a coincidence. Languza was having a lot of fun. He beat them up, but he didn't use too much force so that the cultivators could continue to attack. In the end, it became a situation where he was fighting against 5 people alone. The one who was ambushed earlier wanted to retreat, but he couldn't. Languza, have you had enough? Lin Yi was also speechless. Was this guy here to help or cause trouble? Now, they had to end the battle as soon as possible. He was still having fun. Boss, it's almost done. Languza answered and quickly increased the frequency of his attacks. If the boss got angry and forbade him to beat people up, it would be a big problem. Once Languza got serious, these mysterious ascending stage cultivators were no match for him at all. They were knocked down in an instant. The patrolling northern guards also arrived at the scene. According to Lin Yi's instructions, they took them to the prison and handed them over to Li Ziyu. Unfair. This is too unfair. We were the ones who were ambushed. How can we be arrested like these bastards? Where is the fairness of the extreme North Island? Can't we fight back when we were ambushed? Can't we just wait for death? The guy who was ambushed first did not participate in the subsequent battle, so Languza did not imprison his cultivation, and the northern guards did not take him away. That was why he protested immediately. Lin Yi was stunned. This guy's words made sense. If someone dared to ambush him, he would probably kill them first regardless of where he was. Lin Yi was not the only one who heard this. The onlookers not far away also began to talk about it. That's right. If that's the case, who would dare to come to the extreme North Island? If we are ambushed, we will die if we don't fight back. Are we here to die? That's not a big deal. Aren't you worried that you will be killed inexplicably on the road? Why do I feel that a lot of people here are showing signs of going crazy? I heard that the same thing happened just now. We were attacked inexplicably while walking. What should we do? It seems dangerous to stay, but tomorrow is the last day of the auction. It will be a waste if we don't participate. Don't go out before the auction starts. Leave as soon as it ends tomorrow. Don't come back again. This place is a bit strange. There are all kinds of discussions. An emotion called panic was quietly spreading. Lin Yi suddenly felt that something was wrong. If this continued, the extreme North Island would fall into chaos. At that time, the sea beast would take the opportunity to attack. It would be a problem both inside and outside. Thinking of this, Lin Yi suddenly had a flash of inspiration. Was this deliberately created by the sea beasts? To make the extreme North Island fall into chaos? If that's the case, wouldn't the sea beast attack start soon? Languza, come here. Lin he yelled as he took out a recording pen. He put it to his mouth and quickly said a few words before passing it to Languza, who was running over. "Boss, what is this for?" Languza took the recording pen and wanted to listen to the content. Lin, he stared at him. "It's not for you. You go to the ancient warship immediately and pass the recording pen to Captain Okuda. After that, don't come back. Just stay on the ancient warship and help me keep an eye on the movements in the sea." "In the sea?" "Boss, are you saying that those guys are coming again?" Languza was not willing to run errands and missed the opportunity to fight. However, he was excited when he heard that something might happen in the sea. Compared to fighting with the people on the extreme North Island, Languza preferred to fight the sea beasts in the sea. It was his home ground, and it was easier for him to use his strength. "I hope I'm wrong. Go now." Lin, he waved his hand. After sending Languza away, he found another Northern Town Guard. "Go and find young Master Li and tell him to speed up. Also, the investigation that I mentioned before needs to be done as soon as possible. Ask him to send someone to inform me if there's any news." Lin, he was vague, but he believed that Li Ziyu would understand. If it was possible, Lin, he would definitely go and ask about the situation in person. However, it was not the right time. According to the current situation, the next wave of fighting would probably start soon. Chapter 5962. What Lin he was most worried about was whether someone would take the opportunity to sneak up on his enemy and come up with some inexplicable reason. Anyway, this had happened a few times before, so he could say anything. Lin, he had to find out the reason before the situation got out of hand. He had to put an end to the possibility of someone taking advantage of the situation. Fortunately, the North Garrison that Li Ziyu had set up was already in place. There were people patrolling all the busy areas, so it was of some use. Normally, no one would dare to provoke the North Garrison for no reason. As soon as this thought flashed through Lin Yi's mind, his divine sense suddenly discovered that someone really did sneak up on a team of patrolling North Garrison. This was going to turn the world upside down. Because of the 2 consecutive fights, Lin Yi's divine sense had completely covered the entire bustling area of the far North Island, constantly searching for suspicious people, things, and things. However, no one was obviously abnormal. Before he went crazy, he really couldn't tell anything. Even the person who dared to sneak up on the North Garrison, Lin, he didn't notice anything wrong before. It was only when the person suddenly went crazy that Lin, he discovered it. This was a master in the early stage of the mountain opening stage. Facing the 5-man team of the North Garrison, he easily killed one guard and moved on to the next one. Lin, he didn't care about hiding his trump card. One after another, lightning arcs flashed continuously. In a flash, he had arrived at the scene of the battle. The dragon-shaped, murderous aura of the 5 elements rushed forward and completely shattered the attack of the master in the mountain opening stage. The guy's attention immediately shifted to Lin Yi. He gave up on chasing the North Garrison and rushed directly to Lin Yi. His attacks became even more fierce. Lin Yi secretly frowned. This guy in a mountain opening stage looked extremely ferocious, and there was an inexplicable madness in his eyes. It was as if Lin Yi had killed his father, and he would absolutely not stop until Lin Yi was dead. This situation was obviously abnormal. Lin Yi was almost sure that this guy must have been tampered with. However, he did not know how he did it. There was no one around him except for the patrolling North Guard. There was no one within 500 meters of him. After a few consecutive fights, the originally lively commercial area had quietened down. Moreover, it was extremely quiet because of the previous commotion. Otherwise, the guy in the mountain opening period might not have been able to attack the North Town Guards. The dragon-shaped 5 elements killing chi whistled in the air, instantly pouncing towards the mountain opening stage expert from his side. This guy who had fallen into madness did not lose his battle instincts at all. His body twisted strangely, and he actually dodged this attack. Moreover, he continued to pounce towards Lin Yi without losing any momentum. Lin Yi stood there without moving. 3 pill fire divine sense whirlpools were instantly activated, completely surrounding the mountain opening stage expert in a triangular formation. In fact, using the soul hook was the most suitable way to end the battle silently. However, Lin Yi still needed this guy to be sober enough to answer his questions, so he had to give up on the soul hook. The mountain opening stage expert who crashed into the pill fire divine sense whirlpool immediately let out a shrill scream. His primordial spirit felt like it was being torn apart and burned. This kind of pain was not something that anyone could bear. The dragon-shaped 5 elements killing Qi whistled and chased after this guy. Taking advantage of the fact that his primordial spirit was injured, it fiercely hit his back, forcibly turning his scream into a mouthful of blood. Then, he softly fell to the ground. This was even when Lin Yi was merciful. Otherwise, it would be easy to kill him directly. The divine sense whirlpool and the 5 elements killing Qi attacked from both inside and outside. Under the mountain opening stage, it was almost impossible to resist this kind of damage without a divine sense defense tool. Capture him and send him to prison to Young Island Ownerly. Lin Yi calmly ordered. The remaining 4 northern town guards quickly followed his order, their eyes full of respect. Lin Yi, on the other hand, was used to this. Ever since the last time he fought Uncle Li and Uncle O, he had a clear understanding that as long as he didn't get ganged up on by a mountain opening practitioner, he wouldn't be afraid of any mountain opening practitioner in a one-on-one situation. Even if he couldn't beat a peak opening practitioner, he wouldn't be killed by them. This was the 4th ambush, and the bad effect had spread far and wide. Other than the North Guard, Lin Yi's consciousness couldn't see any tourists wandering around outside. They were all rushing back to their residences, afraid that they would be ambushed out of nowhere, or that they would go crazy for no reason and become the perpetrators of the ambushes. This is good. At least no one will be targeted anymore. Lin Yi sighed softly. It was not easy to eliminate this kind of panic, but he did not need to worry about it. Li Zaixiang and Li Ziyu would naturally have a way to deal with it. Pass down the order immediately. Keep a visual distance between the northern town guards and pay attention to any suspicious people approaching. If a member of the northern town guards is attacked, you must know who passed by and where he went. Do you understand? Lin Yi called a northern town guard over and gave the order in a low voice. Since Li Ziyu had given him enough authority, he would not pass on the responsibility. If the mastermind still wanted to make the soldiers of the northern town guards go crazy, then they would be caught by the tail and pulled out. Lin Yi estimated that this guy could not make people go crazy on a large scale. Whether it was the time of the skill, the Qi limit, the number of times, and the quantity limit of the items and medicines, there must be some drawbacks. Otherwise, the entire northern island would have been turned upside down. This kind of attack from time to time was mainly to cause panic, so that the northern town guards would be exhausted. At the same time, all the guests on the northern island would feel fear and quickly flee the northern island. Yes, Master Lin, your subordinate will pass down your order immediately. This northern town guard was extremely respectful to Lin Yi. He even called himself his subordinate. It seemed that Lin Yi's performance had established his prestige in the northern town guards. However, before Lin Yi's order was passed down, there was a new battle. This time, it was not in the commercial area, but in the residential area of the inn. Lin Yi's expression suddenly changed. All the residential areas would basically have a barrier to block divine sense. No matter how shallow it was, it could prevent other people's divine sense from prying. It was not difficult to force one's divine sense in, and Lin Yi could do it easily. However, it was impossible to hide it from the people inside, because it was not spying, but a blatant invasion. Even Li Zaixiang, the owner of the island, did not have the right to do so. Chapter 5963. Damn it. Will I still be controlled after returning to the station? Lin Yi cursed and instantly disappeared. From this, it could be inferred that this kind of attack was not instantaneous. There would be a lag time, so it would be more difficult to find the culprit, because Lin Yi did not know how long the lag time was. 3 minutes? 5 minutes? 10 minutes? Or even half an hour? 1 or 2 days? If he could not determine the time, How could he find the culprit behind the scenes? Lin Yi's speed was already extremely fast, but when he arrived, the outcome of the battle between the two was already clear. After all, there was a relatively large gap in strength between the two. Otherwise, the other 8 people would not have been killed. The guy who killed all his own people was covered in the blood of his companions. He was like a fierce god struggling out of hell, roaring ferociously. When Lin Yi appeared, he did not say a word and launched a new round of attacks. A wisp of saber chi appeared in front of Lin Yi. The direction of the attack was erratic. It clearly felt like it was aimed at the chest, but in the next moment, it could appear at the throat. This guy really had a skill. Even in a state of madness, his control of martial arts was still excellent. Lin Yi's phantom let the saber chi pass through his body, but his real body appeared behind the guy like a ghost and slapped the back of the guy's head. Unexpectedly, the guy reacted very quickly. His body made a 90-degree turn, and the saber chi reversed. The saber chi slashed into Lin Yi's body like a waterfall. Unfortunately, it was still just a phantom. The essence of the Cloud Dragon's 3 appearances was that it could switch between the real body and the phantom at any time. So no matter how fast the guy's reaction was, he could not keep up with the speed of Lin Yi's attack. When the attack appeared behind him again, the guy had no way to deal with it. He could only collapse to the ground and fall into a coma. Poor guy. When you wake up and know that you killed all your companions, I wonder if you will feel that it is better to die than to live. Lin Yi sighed softly and looked at the guy on the ground with some pity. Perhaps it would be better for him to kill him now. The nearby northern guard quickly arrived and took control of the guy, who was both a murderer and a survivor. According to Lin Yi's order, he was sent to Li Ziyu. As for what would happen to him after he woke up, Lin Yi could not care less. Master Lin, this is the message from young master. A northern guard rushed over and handed Lin Yi a scroll sealed with a restriction formation. Thank you. Lin Yi nodded and took it. He quickly opened it, but there were no words on it. Instead, a phantom of Li Ziyu appeared and spoke to him directly. He did not know what kind of technology it was, but it was a bit similar to the 3D video recording in the secular world. Brother Lin, after the interrogation, the mountain opening stage cultivator in the first batch did not lie. It was another guy who suddenly attacked. Because the old man sealed their cultivation, the guy who attacked regained his consciousness. According to him, when he was walking, he discovered his lifelong enemy. Then, the killing intent in his heart could not be suppressed, and he immediately launched a surprise attack involuntarily. In fact, his opponent was a stranger that he had never met. It had nothing to do with his lifelong enemy. It was all his own illusion, and this is not a special case. In the second batch of people you sent here, the leader of the surprise attack was in the same situation. There is almost no difference. We haven't had time to interrogate the rest of the people, but we can confirm that this is the reason. According to my speculation, they must have been poisoned by an extremely powerful hallucinogenic drug. The problem is that they don't know when they were poisoned. Fortunately, this hallucinogenic drug is not contagious. Otherwise, the entire northernmost island would have completely fallen. Now, I'm only worried that the culprit still has a lot of hallucinogenic drugs, and then the northernmost island will be in chaos. Brother Lin, please help me pay more attention in this aspect. In addition, I've also sent a city guard to patrol the commercial area. We must ensure that there are enough people to control the situation. I'll leave their command to Brother Lin. At this time, the extreme North Island must not have any panic disorder. If there's a trend, I ask Brother Lin to suppress it. I'll bear all the consequences. The shadow of Li Ziyu, who is only the size of a palm, had a very dignified expression. It was estimated that he was under a lot of pressure to say such words. Usually, Li Ziyu did not have the intention to kill, but now he even gave the authority to suppress it to Lin Yi. It could be seen how serious the situation of the northernmost island was in his heart. In the end, Li Ziyu did not say what he was going to do. However, Lin Yi could roughly guess that the culprit behind the scenes was definitely not the main target of the panic and chaos in the northernmost island, unless he had a lot of hallucinogenic drugs that could make people fall into hallucinations on a large scale. Unfortunately, Lin Yi speculated that the possibility was very low. Otherwise, it would not have happened only 5 times. Li Ziyu also had this suspicion, so he arranged to defend some more important places. However, there seemed to be a total of 7 guard stations in the northernmost island. The guard station in the north was imprisoned and isolated because of the incident with the spirit beast and the tunnel. The guard station in the north was also sent to guard it. The commercial area was originally guarded by a guard station in shifts. Now that 2 more guard stations were transferred here, it meant that there were only 2 guard stations left to defend the other places. This was a bit too dangerous. Luring the tiger away from the mountain, making a feint in the east, and striking in the west? Lin Yi murmured. Then he trembled and immediately issued an order to the northern guard next to him. Immediately send the 2 transferred guard stations back to their original positions. We don't need so many people here. The northern guard bowed and cupped his fists. Yes, Master Lin. However, it is not all of the 2 guard stations that were transferred here. To be exact, it is 2/3 of the guard stations. They each left 1/3 of their men to guard their original positions, so there will be no problem. Go and pass the order. Send all the people that were transferred here back. Don't make me repeat myself. Lin Yi did not have time to explain it all. After he raised his voice, he directly rushed out of the courtyard. The North Guard didn't dare to say anything else. He was just trying to explain. He wasn't trying to disobey Li Ziyu's order. Li Ziyu's order aside, the prestige that Lin Yi had built up in such a short period of time was enough for him to obey. Chapter 5964. It was also because of Qibing's words that Zhao Guangxi left Songshan and came to Donghai to do business. Of course, since he continued to give Zhao Guangyin a large sum of money every month to the hidden Zhao family, he quickly gained a foothold in East Ocean City. However, he was no longer able to go to a higher level. House Zhao had chosen a new business representative, the chairman of Donghai Chamber of Commerce, Lei Daming. Just now, it was Lei Daming's order to chase them away. Naturally, he couldn't disobey Lei Daming's request since they were on the same side. It seemed that he had kicked an iron plank. He had to make it clear to Lei Daming that the hidden House Han had to be suppressed by the hidden House Zhao, but he, Zhao Guangxi, wasn't able to do so. Elder Bai didn't have the ability to get the hidden House Zhao to help, but Lei Daming could. I understand. Don't do anything rashly, just serve them the dishes. Don't show yourself. I'll arrange for someone else to go. Guangxi said. Yes, Mr. Zhao. The manager quickly replied. After putting down the phone, Guangxi couldn't wait to call Lei Daming. Mr. Zhao, is it done? Lei Daming was eating at the Northern Ice Seafood Restaurant, and naturally thought that it was done after receiving Guangxi's call. As far as he was concerned, this wasn't a big deal at all. Guangxi was the boss here, and if he didn't want to do business with a table full of customers, then so be it. What else could Pingzhan do? Done what, Mr. Lei? You've screwed me over. They have a backer too. Since Zhao Guangxi was related to Zhao Guangyin, he wouldn't be too humble in front of Lei Daming. He cried and complained. They invited someone from the hidden Han family. His name is Han Xiaopa, and I couldn't suppress him anymore. Not only did Han Xiaopa threaten me to get out of East Ocean City, but he also wanted me to take away all my businesses. Mr. Lei, you can't just ignore this. Hidden House Han? How are they related to Pengzhan? Lei Daming said. Elder Bai frowned, confused. All right, you don't have to worry about it. I'll report this to the boss. The boss Lei Daming was talking about was naturally Guanyin of the hidden House Zhao. Lei Daming was his representative, and the reason why he didn't want Pengzhan to enter Donghai was because Pengzhan's business overlapped too much with Lei Daming's. Hotels, shopping malls, real estate, all of them were profitable projects. If Pengzhan were to come, he'd have to take responsibility for Guangyin's actions. Lei Daming's business would be affected, and if Guangyin were to blame him, he'd have to take responsibility. So, Lei Daming didn't feel that he was in the wrong. He called Zhao Guangyin directly. Boss, there's trouble. What kind of trouble? Zhao Guangyin's attitude towards Lei Daming was quite good. After Lei Daming was promoted, he quickly made a name for himself in East Ocean City. He brought in a lot of profits for the Zhao family every month, and there was a lot of sustainable profits. Therefore, Zhao Guangyin had high hopes for him. I told you before, I've teamed up with the local merchants in Donghai, trying to force an outsider out of business. After all, his business overlaps with ours. Late Daming explained the situation, proving that he wasn't trying to make a personal grudge with the Hidden House Han. Yes, I know. Does this outsider have a background? Guangyin quickly connected the dots. That's right, the Hidden House Han is here to support them. Late Daming nodded. His name is Han Xiaopa. What? Hidden House Han's Han Xiaopa is the outsider's backer? Guangyin paused. Didn't the Hidden House Han not do business? Could it be that after the Hidden House Summit, the Hidden House Han had bared their fangs and were ready to start business? That's right. Here's what happened today. Lei Daming didn't hide anything and directly told Zhao Guangxi about how he met the outsider at the Arctic Ocean seafood restaurant and how he made Zhao Guangxi embarrass him. Well, you did the right thing. Guangyi nodded. Lei Daming was arrogant, but he was doing it for the sake of the Hidden House Zhao's business, so Guangyin had to stand up for him. Moreover, even if this didn't happen, the Hidden Zhao family couldn't take it lying down. After the Hidden Family Summit, the Hidden Han family was no longer as cautious and low-key as before. Instead, they began to move around in the East Ocean City and made their voices heard. It seemed like they wanted to compete with the Hidden Zhao family. At the Hidden House Summit, the Hidden House Han used their relationship with Lin Yi to make the Hidden House Zhao feel bad. After Lin Yi left, the Hidden House Han was still jumping around and even supporting an outsider. Guangyin couldn't tolerate this. If he gave in this time, he believed that the Hidden House Han would take advantage of him and make it worse. Therefore, he had to kill their ambition as soon as they showed their fangs. Boss, what should we do now? Late Daming asked carefully. Isn't it just Han Xiaopa? Guangyin smiled coldly. He really thinks he's someone important. Don't worry, I'll let Qibing and Elder Bai come out and teach this arrogant bastard a lesson. Does he really think that the Hidden House Han can compete with the Hidden House Zhao? He's overestimating himself. That's great. Lei Daming was overjoyed. He didn't think that Guangyin would send Zhao Qibing, the heir of the Hidden House Zhao, and Elder Bai, the core member of the Hidden House Zhao. Just you wait, they'll be here soon. Guangyin couldn't make Elder Bai move, but he could make Qibing move. If Qibing went, Elder Bai, as his master, had to go as well. After all, Han Xiaopa was an Earth-class early phase. If Han Xiaopa made a move, then Qibing would be at a disadvantage. But if Elder Bai went, the situation would be different. Elder Bai wouldn't just sit and watch, and Han Xiaopa wouldn't dare make a move. Yes, thank you, boss, Lei Daming said quickly. In Lin Yi's room, Han Xiaopa closed the door unhappily and walked to Lin Yi with a smile. Boss, what's going on? Chapter 5965. But things were different now. Sun Jingyi had become their daughter, and it would be hard for Faubert to fight with Meng Yao for a man. On one side was his biological daughter, and on the other side was the miss who wasn't even his biological daughter, but was more like one. Plus, Peng Zhan was the one who took him in. Faubert was in a dilemma. But it seemed like Peng Zhan wasn't against it, and since Meng Yao could accept Tang Yun and Xiao Xiao, she might be able to accept Sun Jingyi. Faubert let out a breath of relief. The family was talking happily when the door of the private room was pushed open. They thought it was the waiter who came to serve the dishes, but the person who came in was not a waiter, but a person who looked like a lobby manager. I'm sorry, everyone. Our chairman just called, saying that you're from the Arctic Ocean. You've entered the wrong door. Unwelcome guests of the Fresh Restaurant, please leave. As soon as the lobby manager came in, he didn't wait for anyone to ask and said this in a flat tone. Peng Zhan didn't think that Lei Daming would actually do something like this. Pressuring the chairman of the restaurant to send someone to ask Peng Zhan to leave was a very humiliating action, but it was also extremely sinister. Even business competitors wouldn't do something like this. Not only would it make people think that Lei Daming was being sinister, but it also meant that there was no room for negotiation between Peng Zhan and Lei Daming. What kind of restaurant is this? Which rule says that you can ask a guest to leave? Pengzhan had a restaurant in Songshan as well, but he'd never done something like this before. Even if it was a competitor, he'd treat them well. Our chairman's words are the rules. The manager said faintly, "If you guys don't leave, we'll have to ask the security department to step in." The chairman said that we'll use diplomacy before force. So please make your decision quickly. A threat. This was a blatant threat. Pengzhan felt that this lay daming was going too far. This wasn't business at all. It was like a gang. Chapter 2345, Wrong Door Entering the Wrong Door. This was the boss style. After the manager's words, there was an awkward silence. Pengzhan, on the other hand, felt like a scholar meeting a soldier. Lin Yi, on the other hand, frowned. He was about to say something when someone else spoke up. "Boss, I'm here." Han Xiaopa rushed into the room, but he didn't seem to notice the awkward atmosphere in the room. Instead, he chattered to Lin Yi, "I'm sorry, I rushed all the way here, but this restaurant is a little far from my house. Hee, to express my apology, I'll treat you." "Treat? There's no need to invite us. You've come for nothing. Our chairman doesn't welcome you. You can leave now." The lobby manager was a little amused. This person didn't even know what was going on here and still wanted to treat them? Han Xiaopa was taken aback. Only then did he realize that the person in front of him was not wearing a waiter's uniform, but a lobby manager's uniform. Moreover, the next moment, he also noticed that the atmosphere in the private room was not quite right. Meanwhile, Lin Yi was frowning. F***ck me. Who is the chairman of this restaurant? Han Xiaopa was really shocked. Was there something wrong with this person's head? He even dared to chase away Lin Yi. What did he mean by he wasn't welcome? Of course, the boss didn't need to do anything. As a follower, Han Xiaopa could take care of this. The Hidden House Hans had always kept a low profile, but that didn't mean that Han Xiaopa would do the same because of Lin Yi. How dare this person tell him that they were all unwelcome guests? "Who do you think you are?" Han Xiaopa said angrily. "Huh." The lobby manager's eyes widened. He didn't expect this person to be even more arrogant than he was. "Tell your chairman that I'm Han Xiaopa from the Hidden House Hans of Donghai. If he doesn't welcome me, I don't welcome him either. He can get the hell out of Donghai tomorrow. My family will take over his hotel and properties." Han Xiaopa's voice wasn't loud, but it was intimidating. Donghai's Hidden House Hans had this confidence. Although they had been keeping a low profile all these years, they weren't afraid of trouble. They could tolerate other things, but insulting their boss was definitely not. Hidden House Hans? The lobby manager was stunned. Although he didn't have the ability to reach that level, as the lobby manager of the most luxurious restaurant in Donghai City, he had heard the two big families in Donghai City, the Hidden House Zhao and the Hidden House Hans. These two giants were not to be messed with. Therefore, the lobby manager's face changed. The Hidden House Hans. He couldn't stay calm when he heard this. He didn't have the arrogant attitude he had when he entered the private room. Instead, he said directly, "Sorry, I went to the wrong room." Then, he ran away with his tail between his legs and went to call the chairman with a long face. Although the lobby manager vaguely knew that the chairman had some power and background, it seemed that he didn't have much power and background. Therefore, he wisely chose to swallow his anger. President Zhao. The lobby manager called Zhao Guangxi, the chairman of the Guangxi Group, which was behind the Arctic Ocean seafood restaurant. "Well, how is it? Did you finish the things I asked you to do?" Zhao Guangxi asked. "President Zhao, it's bad. People from the Hidden House Hans are here. They say their name is Han Xiaopa. He's with the person in the private room that you wanted to kick out." The lobby manager said with a bitter face. As soon as he came, he shouted that you should get out of Donghai City. He said that his family will take over your business. What? People from the Hidden House Hans? Why are they here? Zhao Guangxi was shocked when he heard the lobby manager's words. He didn't expect people from the Hidden House Hans to interfere. Didn't the Hidden House Hans not do business? How did he get involved in this matter this time? Zhao Guangxi suddenly had a headache. If it was before, he naturally wouldn't be afraid of this Hidden House Hans. On one hand, he and the young master of the Hidden House Zhao Guangyin, were relatives. He was considered a peripheral business member of the Zhao family. He gave a lot of money to the Hidden House Zhao every year, so the Hidden House Zhao would naturally support him. On the other hand, before the Hidden House Summit, the Hidden House Han was still a small and weak family. They were the target that all the big hidden houses wanted to divide. However, after the Hidden House Summit, the situation suddenly changed. The Hidden House Han miraculously gained a stable foothold, and the Hidden House Zhao seemed to be afraid of them and didn't suppress them as much as before. Although Zhao Guangxi, as a peripheral member, didn't know the inside story, he knew that the Hidden House Hans were not to be messed with. Besides, he was completely marginalized by the Hidden House Zhao now. Because of his son, Zhao Fafa's matter, he was dragged into it. Chapter 2346. Elder Bai comes out because of Zhao Qibing's words. Zhao Guangxi was kicked out of Songshan and came to Donghai City to do business. Of course, since he continued to give Zhao Guangyin a large sum of money every month to the hidden Zhao family, he quickly gained a foothold in East Ocean City. However, he was no longer able to go to a higher level. The Hidden House, Zhao, chose a new business representative. This person was the chairman of Donghai Commerce, Lei Daming. Just now, it was Lei Daming's order to chase them away. Naturally, he couldn't go against Lei Daming's request. After all, he and Lei Daming were on the same side. It seemed like he had kicked an iron board. He had to make it clear to Lei Daming that the Hidden House Hans had to be suppressed by the Hidden House Zhao. However, Zhao Guangxi didn't have the ability to ask the Hidden House Zhao to come out, but Lei Daming could. Understand. Don't do anything rashly. Just serve them the food step by step. Don't show yourself. I'll arrange for someone else to go. Zhao Guangxi said. Yes, Mr. Zhao. The manager quickly replied. After putting down the phone, Zhao Guangxi couldn't wait to call Lei Daming. Mr. Zhao, is it done? Lei Daming was eating at the Northern Ice Sea seafood restaurant. Naturally, he thought that it was done after receiving Zhao Guangxi's call. As far as he was concerned, this wasn't a big deal at all. Zhao Guangxi was the owner of this place. If he didn't serve a table of customers, then so be it. What could Chu Pingzhan do? Done what, Mr. Lei? You screwed me over. They have a backer too. Zhao Guangxi was related to Zhao Guangyin, so he wouldn't be too humble in front of Lei Daming. He cried. They invited a Hidden House Han Xiaopa. I couldn't handle it anymore. Han Xiaopa not only threatened me to get out of Donghai City, but he also wanted me to take away my business. Mr. Lei, you can't just ignore this. Hidden House Hans? How are they related to Chu Pengzhan? Lei Daming frowned, confused. All right, don't worry about it. I'll report it to the boss right now. The boss Lei Daming was talking about was naturally Zhao Guangyin of the Hidden House Zhao. Lei Daming was a spokesperson at the moment, and the reason why Lei Daming didn't want Pengzhan to enter the Eastern Sea market was mainly because Pengzhan's business overlapped too much with Lei Daming's. Hotels, shopping malls, real estate, all of them were profitable projects. Pengzhan wasn't weak, and his capital flow wasn't small either. It was very possible that it would affect Lei Daming's business, and if Guangyin were to blame him, he'd have to take responsibility. So, Lei Daming didn't feel like he was in the wrong. He called Guangyin directly. Boss, there's trouble. What trouble? Guangyin's attitude towards Lei Daming wasn't bad. Ever since Lei Daming was supported, he'd been doing very well in Donghai, bringing House Zhao a lot of profits every month. There was also a lot of sustainable profits, so Guangyin had high hopes for him. I told you before, I'm working with the local merchants in Donghai, trying to force an outsider out of the market, not letting him do business in Donghai. After all, his business overlaps with ours. Lei Daming explained the situation clearly, proving that he wasn't trying to make a personal grudge with the Hidden House Hans. Yes, I know. Does this outsider have a background? Guangyin quickly connected the dots. That's right. Someone from the Hidden House Hans is here to support them. Lei Daming nodded. The person is called Han Xiaopa. What? The Hidden House Han Xiaopa is the outsider's backer? Guangyin paused. Didn't the Hidden House Hans not do business? Could it be that after the Hidden House Summit ended, the Hidden House Hans also bared their fangs and prepared to do business to make money? That's right. This is what happened today. Lei Daming didn't hide anything. He directly told Zhao Guangxi about how he met the outsider at the Arctic Ocean seafood restaurant and how he made Zhao Guangxi embarrass him. Well, you did the right thing. Guang Yi nodded after listening. This late Daming was arrogant and despotic, but at the end of the day, he was thinking about the hidden house Zhao's business, so Guang Yin had to stand up for him. Moreover, even if this didn't happen, the hidden house Zhao still couldn't take it lying down. After the hidden house summit, the hidden house Hans were no longer as cautious and low-key as before. Instead, they started to be active in Donghai City and made their voices heard. It seemed like they wanted to compete with the hidden house Zhao. At the hidden house summit, the hidden house Hans used their relationship with Lin Yi to make the hidden house Zhao suffer enough. After Lin Yi left, the hidden house Hans were still jumping up and down, even supporting an outsider. Guang Yin couldn't let this continue. If he gave in this time, he believed that the hidden house Hans would take advantage of him and get more serious every time. He had to kill their ambitions the moment they bared their fangs. "Boss, what should we do now?" Late Daming asked carefully. "Isn't it just Han Xiaopa?" Guang Yin smiled coldly. "He really thinks he's someone important. Don't worry, I'll let Qibing and Elder Bai come out and teach this arrogant bastard a lesson. Does he really think that the hidden house Hans can compete with the hidden house Zhao? He's overestimating his own strength." "That's great." Late Daming was overjoyed. He didn't think that Guang Yin would send Zhao Qibing, the heir of the hidden house Zhao, and Elder Bai, the core of the hidden house Zhao. "Just you wait, they'll be here soon." Guang Yin couldn't order Elder Bai around, but he could order Qibing. If Qibing went, Elder Bai, as his master, had to go as well. After all, Han Xiaopa was an Earth-class early phase. If Han Xiaopa made a move, then Qibing would be at a disadvantage. But if Elder Bai went, then the situation would be different. Elder Bai wouldn't just sit and watch, and Han Xiaopa wouldn't dare make a move. "Yes, thank you, boss," Lei Daming said quickly. In Lin Yi's room, Han Xiaopa closed the door unhappily and walked to Lin Yi with a smile. "Boss, what's going on?" Chapter 5966. That's right. Third brother, has my seclusion gone smoothly? Patriarch Xianzhen asked. All these years, he had focused his energy on cultivation and alchemy. He had basically stopped managing the sex affairs. He only knew about Patriarch Xianzhen's plan, but did not participate in it. Second brother, Patriarch Xianzhen paused and said sadly, "It's not going well." Second brother, something big happened a while ago. What? Something big happened? What happened? Patriarch Xianzhen's expression froze. He stopped in his tracks and turned to look at Patriarch Xianzhen. What happened? Second brother, Tagan Long has been crippled. Patriarch Xianzhen sighed and said bitterly, "What? Tagan Long has been crippled?" Patriarch Xianzhen was shocked when he heard that. "What's going on? How did he get crippled?" Second brother, "It's like this." Patriarch Xianzhen explained Tagan Long's situation to Patriarch Xianzhen. When he was done, he said, "Originally, I placed my hopes on second brother. I thought that after second brother came out of seclusion, he would be able to refine grade 4 elixirs. Then he would be able to refine the Great Return Pill and the Great Meridian Channel Conduit Pill. But if he could refine a grade 4 elixir, boss would also." Patriarch Xianzhen smiled helplessly. "I haven't been able to make any breakthroughs in the past 3 years. I reckon that in the next few years, I won't be able to make any progress. There's no hope for a grade 4 elixir. So I acted on my own and activated the backup plan. After all, a person with a 5-elemental constitution is quite difficult to find. After searching for so many years, we finally found Tagan Long, a 1 in a billion person with a compound constitution." Patriarch Xianzhen said. "The backup plan." Patriarch Xianzhen nodded. He knew a thing or two about the backup plan, but it wasn't too detailed. "Are you confident about the backup plan?" "The chances are 50-50. Whether or not the spy succeeds will depend on what happens next," Patriarch Xianzhen said. He lowered his voice and whispered in Patriarch Xuanzhen's ear. Patriarch Xianzhen invited them to eat. Patriarch Black Earth was actually afraid that Little Fool and Little Three would hear it. After all, only he and Little One knew about this matter. Xianzhen Ancestor nodded and said, I hope it will succeed. I didn't think that such a big thing would happen during this closed-door training. There's nothing I can do. If I don't succeed this time, I can only slowly search for someone with a suitable physique. Patriarch Xianzhen sighed helplessly. Tag on long. Other than using grade 4 pills, is there no other way to recover? Patriarch Xianzhen asked. Second brother, you can go and take a look. Other than that, I really can't think of any other fortuitous encounters. Patriarch Black Earth said. Let's go take a look then. At this point, Patriarch Xianzhen could only try his best. The two of them quickly came to the room where Tagan Long was recuperating. Although Tagan Long's injuries were under control, he had not woken up yet. His pulse was very messy, and Patriarch Xianzhen was only temporarily holding onto his life. It was impossible for him to recover. Patriarch Xianzhen carefully felt Tagan Long's pulse. His brows furrowed deeply, and he remained silent for a long time. In the blink of an eye, it was time for school to end at noon. There was no class in the afternoon, so Lin Yi said goodbye to Wang Xinyan and walked out of the classroom with Han Jingjing. Xiaolong wanted to go over and talk to Wang Xinyan, but thinking of the embarrassing incident today, he gave up in the end. He guessed that if he talked to Wang Xinyan now, she wouldn't give him a good attitude, so he could only give up. Moreover, he had an appointment with Right Coiling Tiger to go to the natural ski resort in Jiduan City to investigate first. So he left the classroom with Right Coiling Tiger. Big bro Lin Yi, are you trying to scam Right Coiling Tiger's herbs again? Han Jingjing asked Lin Yi after leaving the classroom. Yes, we don't have any herbs on hand, so we can only get them from Right Coiling Tiger again, Lin Yi said. Since this kid came to us voluntarily, there's no need for us to let him go. Oh, then how do you need Jing Jing to cooperate? Han Jingjing nodded. She didn't refute Lin Yi's suggestion at all. Next time he comes to talk to you and asks you something, just say that you lack herbs. Every time he comes, you ask him for herbs until he realizes that he's been tricked and stops falling for it, Lin Yi said. Yes, yes, Han Jingjing nodded. After Right Coiling Tiger realizes that he's been tricked, he won't look for trouble with me, right? If he does, just tell him that I'm the one who told you to do this. Tell him to come to me. Lin Yi took the trouble directly. He wasn't afraid of Right Coiling Tiger. Jing Jing understands. Han Jingjing nodded. There were no classes in the afternoon for medicine, but Meng Yao and Yushu had classes in the afternoon. Lin Yi called Meng Yao and asked her to have lunch together. Lin Yi and Han Jingjing arrived at the Economics Faculty's building and saw Meng Yao and Yushu not long after. Seeing the smile on Yushu's face, Lin Yi let out a sigh of relief. It seemed that Shu's problem was solved, but Lin Yi couldn't figure it out. Who was the one who told Shu to assassinate him? Who could order Shu around? Or, in other words, what reason did they have to make Shu do this? It was just that Shu didn't want to talk about it, and Lin Yi couldn't force her. As long as she looked fine, Lin Yi was relieved. Lin Yi looked at Meng Yao, and Meng Yao nodded at him, indicating that Shu was fine. What do you want to eat for lunch? Lin Yi asked. Do you want to eat in the cafeteria or outside? Let's eat outside. Shu wants to have a big meal, Yushu said after some thought. Today's incident allowed her to get away with it, and it made Shu feel like she survived a disaster. Especially since she didn't have to target Lin Yi anymore, she was very happy. She wanted to have a big meal to celebrate. Okay, let's go out for a big meal, Lin Yi nodded. Should we call Xinyan sis? Yushu suggested. I'll ask. If Lin Yi was eating in the cafeteria, he wouldn't call Xinyan, but it was better to ask if he wanted to eat outside. He dialed Wang Xinyan's number and asked, Xinyan, where are you? Jing Jing, Yao Yao, and Shu are going out to eat. Do you want to come? Chapter 59-67. But the situation was different now. She didn't want the Sky Elixir sect to be angry at Lin Yi, so she purposely kept her distance from Lin Yi. I'm not going. I'll go to the cafeteria with Mei Yue and Ling. Xinyan, who's treating you to dinner? Mei Yue's voice came from the other side. It's Lenny. You guys still have classes in the afternoon? Let's go to the cafeteria, Sinyan said. Afternoon classes start at 2:02. It's still early. Imei snatched the phone from Sinyan. Lin, hey, you don't mind if Ling and I go with you, right? Naturally, I don't mind. Linny smiled, then called by Wei Tuo and Zhao Shengji over as well. Sure, Imei agreed right away. Sinyan was really pissed off. Chapter 24-24 was funny, but she couldn't explain it. What should she say? Was she afraid that her fiancé would do something to Lin Yi? If she told the truth and Xiaolong heard about it, how would she explain it? She hoped that Xiaolong wouldn't see it and agitate him. Sinyan comforted herself in her heart. Let's go then. Sinyan helplessly took out her car keys and prepared to go to the parking lot. Imei Wei, on the other hand, called by Wei Tuo. Sinyan saw Lin Yi, Han Jingjing, Meng Yao, and Yushu from afar when she got to the parking lot. She was familiar with all of them, but it was awkward to see them again. She just rejected Lin Yi's confession yesterday, and now she was eating with Lin Yi. It was weird. Imei Wei and Xiaoling were used to Lin Yi being surrounded by beauties. It was something between Sinyan and Lin Yi, after all. Sinyan sis, Shield bro missed you so much. He kept looking left and right. Yushu called out to Sinyan. Sinyan blushed a little, but Lin Yi, on the other hand, was happy. He wasn't happy that Yushu had spoken up for him, but that Yushu was back to her usual playful self. It seemed that her problem had been solved. Yeah, Lin Yi's been nagging you the whole time. Chapter 24-24, Death Unexpectedly. Meng Yao put in a good word for Lin Yi when they bumped into each other. Oh, really? Sinyan's heart skipped a beat. This feeling made her heart beat faster. Had she really fallen for Lin Yi? But what could he do? Wang Sinyan realized that ever since Lin Yi confessed to her, her heart had been a little unsettled. Originally, Sinyan thought that she could pretend to be a normal friend in front of Lin Yi, but some feelings couldn't be faked. Her heart raced when she saw Lin Yi. It was a feeling that scared her, but it made her yearn for it. Imei Wei and Xiaoling looked at Meng Yao and Yushu, a little surprised. Lin Yi had said that he was asked by a relative to take care of Meng Yao and Yushu, and lived with them. But Meng Yao and Yushu were so pretty, and Lin Yi was living under the same roof as them. Imei Wei and Xiaoling wouldn't believe it if they said that there wasn't anything going on between them. After all, who wouldn't be moved by two pretty girls in front of them? So naturally, they thought that Meng Yao and Yushu were Wang Sinyan's enemies. But now, hearing that both Meng Yao and Yushu were helping Lin Yi chase after Wang Sinyan, they were a little surprised. Sinyan, it seems like you and Lin Yi are quite close. You're already thinking about him after class. Imei Wei teased with a smile. Yao Yao and Shu are joking, right? Sinyan said nervously. Haha, joking or not, we all know about your relationship with Lin Yi. Xiaoling said with a smile. Sigh. Sinyan was really helpless. It seemed like her relationship with Lin Yi couldn't be explained no matter what. She just hoped that Xiaolong wouldn't hear about it. Otherwise, he'd ask Kong Ming for help in a fit of anger. After a while, Bai Wei Tuo and Zhao Shengji ran over in a hurry. Bai Wei Tuo said breathlessly, I say, Lin bro, why didn't you say earlier that you were going to treat us? Zhao Shengji and I were waiting in line to sell our food, and it was almost our turn. We wasted 20 minutes just like that. We should have gone back to the dorms and rested. It was an impromptu decision, Lin Yi said with a smile. Why do you have to talk so much when you're here to freeload? Two cars, a Grand Cherokee and a Porsche Cayenne, left the school one after another. They arrived at a rather luxurious restaurant near the school. The restaurant looked nice, but it didn't have a private room. It was probably because it was close to the school and the cost of living here was lower. It wasn't worth it to get a private room. There were booths in the hall, and Lin Yi and the others chose a bigger booth and walked over. Halfway there, Lin Yi felt a gloomy and resentful gaze directed at him. Lin Yi turned around and saw Xiaolong and Tiger Right, as well as Tiger Right's two colorful followers. They were sitting in a booth not far away, eating. Xiaolong was naturally furious when he saw Lin Yi and Sinyan walk into the restaurant side by side. If it was before, Xiaolong wouldn't be this angry. After all, he didn't have the right to be angry. House Kong had always been a weak existence in front of Lin Yi, but it was different now. He was the brother of the last disciple of the Sky Elixir Sect's fifth elder. His confidence was inflated, and Xiaolong didn't know his place anymore. But Lin Yi only glanced at Xiaolong faintly. He didn't have the slightest intention of greeting him. He turned around and continued sitting in the booth with Xinyan and the others. Fuck, Xiaolong cursed, but he was afraid that Lin Yi would beat him up if he heard it, so he lowered his voice. His confidence was inflated, and he thought that he had the background to compete with Lin Yi. But he was an idiot. He didn't think that Lin Yi wouldn't dare beat him up if he cursed at Lin Yi. Although there were a lot of rules in Boss Bai's class, if you scolded and provoked others first and got beaten up, Boss Bai probably wouldn't stand up for you as long as you weren't beaten to death. It looks like Xinyan is interested in Lin Yi. Tiger Right clicked his tongue when he heard Xiaolong's cursing. That should be the case. Do you have any good ideas, brother you? Xiaolong was a PhD, but he knew nothing about picking up girls. He could only ask Tiger Right for advice. Chapter 5968. After all, love was free now, and whether Lin Yi liked his disciple or not was another matter. Boss Bai couldn't care so much. He actually really wanted Lin Yi and Xin to communicate more. Although Lin Yi didn't know alchemy, his medical skills and theoretical knowledge were quite powerful. Especially today, the speed and effect of Lin Yi's healing for Han Jingjing made Boss Bai gasp in amazement. And it was naturally his wish to have Lin Yi visit his home often. That was why he said that. He didn't expect Xin to misunderstand. Okay, let's talk later. See you later. Boss Bai didn't hear the negative emotions in Xin's tone. After saying that, he hung up the phone. Xin hung up the phone and couldn't help but pout. She thought to herself, I don't care what kind of young talent you are. I guarantee that you won't want to eat again after eating and won't dare to come again. Humph. After the call, Lin Yi returned to Boss Bai's office, and Boss Bai had just finished the call. Mr. Bai, have you made the arrangements? Lin Yi asked. Yes, everything is arranged. Let's go together. Boss Bai said, stood up, and walked out of the office with Lin Yi, walking to the family area of the school. Boss Bai lived in a separate professor's villa in the university. His status was superior, so he was naturally qualified to enjoy the villa. As they walked, Boss Bai introduced, this disciple of mine not only makes rapid progress in alchemy, she also has a very outstanding ability in identifying medicinal herbs. You can often discuss and compare notes. Especially her ability to identify medicinal herbs. She is not worse than you. Boss Bai said, currently, she is already a first-grade alchemist, and she's trying to break through to the second grade. Oh, so good? Lin Yi couldn't help but be a little surprised. Boss Bai used to be a genius alchemist, as long as his disciples' aptitude met the requirements. And some are not so stupid, it was not surprising that she became a first-grade alchemist. But in identifying medicinal herbs, this was talent. Lin Yi had this kind of talent, and even Old Man Lin was slightly inferior to him. So when Lin Yi heard that there was someone who was similar to him, he was naturally interested. Of course, if it weren't for your good relationship with Han Jingjing, I would have introduced her to be your girlfriend, Boss Bai said. I'll pass. You can introduce me to Bai Wei Tuo or Bai Wei Kai. Lin Yi said. Do you think I don't know that Bai Wei Tuo has a girlfriend? Isn't she called He Wei? Boss Bai said. And even if he doesn't, I won't introduce him. They are not the same kind of people, and they won't be happy in the future. But you are different. You are both cultivators, and you both have talents in this aspect, so Bai Wei Kai can't. Lin Yi smiled and didn't continue. His current love life was already very complicated. Naturally, he would not accept Boss Bai's kindness. As the two talked, they came to the school's family area. In front of Boss Bai's villa, Lin Yi looked at the medicinal herbs planted in Boss Bai's yard and couldn't help but be a little surprised. It was already winter. Although these medicinal herbs were in the self-made greenhouse, it was quite difficult to cultivate them. It seemed that Boss Bai still had some ability in cultivating medicinal herbs. He should even be a little better than Old Man Lin. After all, The geographical location of West Star Mountain Village was like spring all year round, which was more suitable for the growth of medicinal herbs. But here it was different. Without some special methods, it was difficult to let the medicinal herbs grow. Are you interested in my medicinal herbs? Boss Bye saw that he was looking at the medicinal herbs in the yard, so he asked with a smile. Yes, but they are all medicinal herbs used to make first-grade pills. The second-grade pill only has one kind of medicinal herb, which is laxative pill. Lenny said, my disciple is currently a first-grade alchemist, so I planted some medicinal herbs needed for first-grade pills. As for second-grade pills, she is currently only a trial, so she can't form pills yet. So any pill is the same. The medicinal herbs used for laxative pill are easier to grow, have a higher yield, and are easier to cultivate, so I planted this one. Boss Bye explained, when she truly becomes a second-grade alchemist, I will cultivate it again. Lenny nodded and didn't say anything else. In the kitchen of Boss Bye's house, a beautiful figure was busy. If Lenny was here, he would definitely be surprised because this person was actually Xiao Shi, Guan Xian. According to Boss Bye's instructions, Guan Xian made 8 dishes and 1 soup, all of which were meticulously made by her. Although she didn't really want to get to know some young talent, he was after all someone her master admired. Since Boss Bye had already asked, Guan Xian couldn't refuse, but it was impossible for her to use her best cooking skills to entertain the guests. This was also because Boss Bye was usually too kind to her. If it was a master and disciple in a normal sect, then how could the disciple dare to disregard the master's words and execute them? However, Guan Xian was Boss Bye's last disciple, and because of her rapid progress in alchemy, Boss Bye doted on her a lot. This was also the reason why Guan Xian dared to cook terrible food. In her eyes, the dishes she cooked only needed to look good, and if the taste was bad, even if the guests were unhappy after eating, they wouldn't be able to say anything, and at most, they wouldn't come to eat again. In the end, she made a big mistake. It turned out that the young talent her grandpa had been talking about was her sweetheart, Lin Yi. At that time, Guan Xian regretted it so much that she wanted to die. Chapter 5969. Guan Xian was embarrassed, but she couldn't say it out loud. She didn't know how to explain. At that moment, Lin Yi had just finished making the last steamed pork with preserved vegetables, and had just come back. Hearing Boss Bye's question, Lin Yi explained with a smile, well, this is actually what happened. Lin Yi then told Boss Bye and Madame Bye about his visit to Guan Xiumin's house. Coming from Lin Yi's mouth, it was naturally interesting. Boss Bye and Madame Bye were amused and didn't blame Guan Xian anymore. Haha, so that's how it is. All right, then let's have a taste of Lin Yi's cooking. Boss Bye picked up another piece of meat and carefully put it in his mouth. But this time, he wasn't confident enough to swallow it all at once. Instead, he savored it slowly. But this time, as soon as it entered his mouth, the rich aroma made him swallow the rest of the meat as well. Delicious! Even better than Xian's cooking? Mistress Bai took a bite of the cold dish, nodding to herself. Changing a dish was much harder than cooking, and Guan Xian's dish was already disgusting, but Lin Yi was able to turn it back into a delicacy after putting it back into the wok. Just how skilled did he have to be to do that? This is not something that can be done by just anyone with good cooking skills. Guan Xian's face was also full of admiration. Lin Yi didn't do anything last time, so she didn't know that Lin Yi had this kind of ability. Now that she saw Lin Yi, she was even more moved. No wonder her grandpa and master admired him so much. So when Boss Bye said that Lin Yi was better than her, she wasn't angry. Instead, she felt proud. Yes, Lin Yi is actually very good. Haha, I thought that Xian wouldn't be happy if Lin Yi was the senior brother, but it seems like that won't be the case, right? Boss Bye asked with a smile. Yes, of course not. Guan Xian nodded matter-of-factly, but she was curious. Lin Yi, you know alchemy too? I won't. Lin Yi simply shook his head and said, my constitution is very strange. I can condense a pill fire, but I can't control the intensity and temperature of the fire. Is it because your body lacks the wood attribute? Guan Xin paused. That's not it. Maybe there are too many attributes, so it's a mess, Lin Yi said. That's right. Lin Yi's body has too many attributes, and they aren't fusing well with each other, causing them to restrain and restrict each other. That's why he's in such a situation. These days, I've been looking through some ancient books left behind by my sect, hoping to find a reliable solution. Boss Bai nodded and said, but we haven't found anything yet, but we have found some clues. In Lin Yi's case, he lacks an opportunity. If we can combine the several mutually restraining attributes in his body and form a small cycle in his body, the problem will be solved. Minor circulation? Lin Yi didn't expect Boss Bai to find a solution. He couldn't help but be a little surprised. In other words, it's still possible for me to make alchemy, right? That's right. Boss Bai nodded and said, you can indeed make alchemy, and similar situations have happened in the past generations of my sect. It's just that when I left, I took too little information with me. Most of the information I took was related to alchemy, not the records of those strange things. It's impossible to go back and ask about it now. Lin Yi nodded. He wasn't too disappointed. After all, what Boss Bai said was already a pleasant surprise for Lin Yi. Before, Lin Yi thought that he couldn't make alchemy at all, but now it seemed that he could. It was just that the attributes in his body hadn't fused and formed a small cycle, so there was a situation where they mutually restrained each other. It's okay as long as there's hope, Lin Yi said. As for the specific method, we can slowly study and explore it. Well, come to my study after dinner. I'll show you that book, Boss Bai said. Okay. Lin Yi nodded readily. Guan Xin was confused. These attributes mutually restrained each other, a small cycle. She hadn't come into contact with it before, so she didn't really understand it. However, she only understood one thing, and that was that Lin Yi couldn't make alchemy, but there was hope for him to make alchemy. Senior brother Lin Yi, then you have to work hard. Xin is already a first-grade alchemist, and I'm trying to break through to second grade, Guan Xin said with some pride. She finally had something better than Lin Yi, and could finally become his right-hand man. Guan Xin was very happy today. Originally, she didn't have much interest in learning alchemy. She only wanted to learn medical knowledge, so that she could go back and help Lin Yi's company. Boss Bai's ardent hope made Guan Xin have no choice but to learn alchemy. Now, it seemed that Lin Yi had also come into contact with alchemy, so Guan Xin felt that learning alchemy was a wise choice. She finally had something to surpass Lin Yi. Okay, Lin Yi said with a smile. Right, Xin, you're already trying to break through to second-grade alchemist? Is there any difficulty? Difficulty? Not for now. This thing is practice makes perfect. Guan Xin shook her head. I haven't made a second-grade pill yet. Actually, that's not the case. Boss Bai suddenly opened his mouth. The reason why Xin's success rate is so low is because the second-grade medicine cauldron I have here is a bit too broken. There's a crack on it, and during the alchemy process, the pill's aura will leak out, so the success rate is naturally much lower than normal. Under these circumstances, Xin's low success rate is understandable. Crack? Lin Yi paused. Teacher Bai, wouldn't you use a medicine cauldron without a crack? This medicine cauldron is what I used when I was learning alchemy. I brought it with me back then as a souvenir. I can't even make pills myself, so what's the point of carrying a good medicine cauldron around? Boss Bai smiled bitterly. Who would have thought that after a few decades, I would be able to take in a disciple and teach her alchemy? The reason why Boss Bai was teaching outside was to stay away from the disputes of that place, and to find a wood-type inheritor according to the ancestors' teachings. A girl who was born with an extremely keen intuition for herbs. But when Boss Bai saw Guan Xin, he found that she not only had the talent of an inheritor, but also an alchemist, so he taught her alchemy. Regarding that, Boss Bai really couldn't ask Xianxun for a second-grade medicine tripod. After all, Xianxun was only inclined to Boss Bai to find a pure successor, not to raise an alchemist, to be continued. Chapter 5970. Morning, Jing. How did you sleep last night? Did you have any nightmares? Lin Yi asked. No, I dreamt that I went to fight monsters with Lin E. Gidge. I slept very well. Han Jingjing didn't seem to be affected by yesterday's events at all. Jingjing sent all the information to the cloud disk and set a password. Even if the tablet was stolen, it wouldn't be a problem. I don't have to worry about them cracking the password. I can delete it from other apps at any time. Oh, Lin E didn't really understand. He only nodded and let out a sigh of relief. He was worried about Han Jingjing's emotions, but it seemed like she wasn't affected at all. Breakfast is ready. Let's go eat together. Okay. Han Jingjing nodded and went to wake up her brother, Han Xiao Xiao, and went to eat with Lin E. On this day, 3 things happened in the school. The first was that the school was going to host a charity gala. This was an event that was held every year. The school consciously cultivated the students' love. During the gala, some items would be auctioned. Some of these items were donated by students, and some were donated by celebrities. However, the money from the auction would be donated according to the situation. For example, in remote mountainous areas, welfare homes, orphanages, and so on. The donation targets were randomly decided by the school. However, when Lin E heard the news, the first thing he thought of was Yu Xiaoka's orphanage. Although the students were the main group in the school's auction, there were many successful graduates and celebrities participating. There weren't many of them, but the amount of money they donated was much more than the students. Especially in a provincial city like Donghai, these celebrities would donate at least $1 million, so the total amount of money raised in every charity gala was quite sizable. So, Lin E had an idea. For this kind of thing, Lin E can only ask Boss Bai. Given his special position in the school, Lin E thought that he could help, right? As expected, after Boss Bai received Lin Yi's call, he agreed without hesitation. Okay, I understand. I will suggest it to the school. It's not a big problem. If you wanted to give this money to you personally, I definitely can't do it. But donating it to the orphanage is naturally doable. After all, this money was originally going to be donated to people who needed it. Thank you, Teacher Bai. After what happened yesterday, the relationship between Lin E and Boss Bai was much closer. Now that Boss Bai agreed to help, there shouldn't be much of a problem. It's nothing. It's not a big deal. Boss Bai smiled and said indifferently. The second thing was that Zhao Qibing's floating cloud bar had opened near the school. Su Jianong found some students and started distributing flyers in the school. Lin E received one as well. Qibing's action surprised Lin E. This guy was actually trying to get close to him. Aren't you afraid of getting beaten up? The third thing was that Pin Liang had returned to school, but this time he kept a low profile. He didn't challenge anyone, nor did he challenge Lin E directly. Instead, he went to school with Xiaofu, as usual, and went to class as usual. Although Lin E got the news, the two didn't do anything special. Lin E naturally wouldn't cause trouble for them. He was happy with the peace and quiet. After the first class, Lin E called Yu Xiaoka, planning to ask her about the orphanage's situation. Yu Xiaoka had quite a headache recently. There was a saying that people were afraid of being famous, just as pigs were afraid of being fat. The orphanage was famous now, and a new building was beautiful and practical. As a result, the number of orphans had increased a lot, especially the sick orphans. They were all sent to Yu Xiaoka's orphanage from hospitals all over the country. In fact, this couldn't be helped. Some poor people had children, and the children were sick. They didn't have money to treat them, so they could only leave them in the hospital. It wasn't the parents' fault. They had no other choice. As far as they were concerned, if there was a kind-hearted person or an orphanage that took them in, the child might be able to live. But if they couldn't treat them, they would die. However, this kind of sick orphan was rarely adopted. Even if those infertile couples adopted children, they would adopt healthy ones. Who would adopt a sick baby? And so, the monthly medical expenses had become the second biggest expense after the orphanage's construction and food, and it was increasing every day. Yu Xiaoka couldn't just ignore these sick abandoned babies, could she? She wouldn't be Yu Xiaoka if she were that heartless. And so, Yu Xiaoka was willing to lower the standard of the orphanage's food in order to save the money for these filial children. At this moment, Yu Xiaoka was thinking about accepting a mission from the thief's door. She couldn't find a suitable one. The ones with too much money were too dangerous, or they were unrealistic. The simple ones were too little money, and they wasted a lot of time. Yu Xiaoka really didn't know what to choose. Lin Yi's call came in. Yu Xiaoka was a kind-hearted person, and she didn't want to answer the call from her admirer. But Lin Yi was her savior, and it wouldn't be good if she didn't answer. She had no choice. Hello? Lin Yi, you're looking for me? Oh, I'm just asking. How's the orphanage? Do you have enough money? Lin Yi frowned when he heard the bad tone in Yu Xiaoka's voice. What was wrong with Yu Xiaoka? Did she eat gunpowder? Did she have this attitude every time he saw her? It's all right. You don't have to worry about the money. I'll take care of it myself. Yu Xiaoka said coldly. I'm ready to accept a mission from the thief's door. It's a bit hard, but if I do it well, I'll get 10 million, right? You're going to accept a mission from the thief's door again. Lin Yi paused. He was about to say that he hadn't learned his lesson from the grave robbery. But then he realized that his identity was Lin Yi, not the male thief. How would he know about the grave robbery? Yu Xiaoka only mentioned the mission to him, but she didn't tell him the details. Lin Yi quickly changed his words. The missions there are very hard, right? It'll be hard even for me. If you go, you'll be at a disadvantage. Do I need your concern? Yu Xiaoka didn't know why, but she was unhappy whenever Lin Yi cared about her. Chapter 59-71. She felt that Lin Yi had an ulterior motive towards her, and so she tried her best to distance herself from Lin Yi. What if I don't accept the mission? You really don't know how expensive it is if you don't take care of the household. The orphanage receives many sick and abandoned babies from all over the country, and it's a huge expense just to treat them. What should I do if I don't accept the mission? I see. Lin Yi didn't expect the orphanage to have such a huge amount of problems, but he didn't want Xiaoka to be too tired. Don't make it hard for yourself. I'll help you think of a way. Other than the necessary investment from Fatty Lai, I'll help you think of other ways. In a few days, our school will have a charity banquet, and there will be an auction to raise money. I've already told my teacher that all the money raised will be donated to your orphanage. Huh? Donated to me? Xiaoka froze for a moment, and then became happy, but after the happiness, deep worry flashed in her eyes. Lin Yi was really too eager to help her. Xiaoka didn't believe that Lin Yi was just helping the orphanage. Even if he was a great philanthropist, there was no need for him to do this, right? Unless Xiaoka was a staff member of the orphanage, wouldn't that happen? In fact, Lin Yi wasn't so simple. Lin Yi was doing this because of the other male thief's identity, but Xiaoka didn't know about these things. And the money raised this time should be quite a lot. According to my teacher, the charity banquet every year can raise at least 10 million, up to 100 million. So forget about that thief's door mission. Lin Yi said, how old are you? You should enjoy life at this age and do things that are appropriate for a girl your age. What should a girl my age do? Xiaoka was confused. She really didn't know what she should be doing at her age. Ever since she grew up, she had been running around for the orphanage. She didn't know what she should be doing. For example, going shopping, going to a beauty salon, buying some pretty clothes. Lin Yi thought about it and told Xiaoka what the miss and Shu often did. Xiaoka was speechless. Do you think I'm Ms. Perfect? Where'd I get the money? I'll give it to you, Lin Yi said. Bye. Yu Xiaoka was so angry that she almost threw the phone on the ground. If it weren't for the fact that she had to buy a new phone, she would have thrown it out a long time ago. However, she still hung up on Lin Yi angrily. Humph, 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 humph. You finally revealed your fox's tail, haven't you? You're giving me money? You want me to go shopping for clothes? Isn't this the same as providing for me? I finally figured out what you were thinking. You really are interested in me. But what to do? If Lin Yi is really interested in me, can I reject him? If I reject him, what if he stops collecting money for the orphanage? But she couldn't let the male thief down. If she hadn't met him before, she wouldn't have rejected him like this. It wasn't easy to find someone who could support the orphanage's expenses, and it wasn't a bad idea to be his sugar mom. For the sake of the orphanage's children, it was fine. She could accept it. But now that Xiaoka had someone else in her heart, her way of thinking couldn't help but change a little. She was very repulsed by the meaning Lin Yi revealed. So annoying. What should I do? Xiaoka was troubled again. She couldn't reject the temptation of Lin Yi's money, but she didn't want anything to happen between her and Lin Yi. Lin Yi didn't look like an idiot who didn't ask for anything in return. So, Xiaoka knew that if she owed more and more favors like this, she'd be in big trouble in the end. Sigh, whatever. She'd just deal with the things in front of her first. She didn't directly respond to Lin Yi anymore. It was his business if he was willing to give her money, but if things really came out, she'd just reject him. He couldn't ask for the money back, could he? The male thief was still the nice. He gave her so much money and good stuff without asking for anything in return. Much better than Lin Yi. If Lin Yi knew what Xiaoka was thinking, he'd probably be depressed. How much did the male thief give her? His identity as Lin Yi gave her more than 10 times what the male thief gave her. But at this moment, Lin Yi looked at the phone in his hand curiously. What was wrong with Xiaoka? Did she just hang up and say goodbye? And it seemed like she was going berserk. He just asked her to go shopping. Did she have to be like this? Could it be that she had shopping rejection syndrome? Lin Yi shook his head, but didn't call Xiaoka again. He told her everything he needed to know, and when the money from the auction came out, he just donated to the orphanage. At noon, after class, Boss Bai was done with this matter. He directed the donation to the orphanage in Songshan and announced the details of the charity party in front of the whole class. On this Friday night, our school will hold an annual charity evening party. Boss Bai said, I think many students have already seen the news on the BBS forum of our school. As for the details, I still have to tell you. The charity evening party is divided into 2 parts. The first part is the auction. The so-called auction is for everyone to donate some auction items and put them up for auction. There is no specific type of auction item. Anything is fine, but it has to be something worthy, otherwise it might not pass the audit. This is a voluntary donation, and there are no special requirements. The people who will participate in the auction are us students and some alumni from the previous years, as well as the school staff and celebrities from the society. Everyone is willing to bid, and all the money from the auction will be donated to the orphanage. The second part is a voluntary donation, and there are no restrictions on the amount of money you can donate. As for the third segment, it's a masquerade ball. However, there's a limit to the conditions for participation. Only those who have donated and successfully traded items in the previous auctions, or those who have successfully bid for the items, can participate. Of course, this is also voluntary. Those who meet the requirements can also participate or not. However, this activity has always been a tradition of our school. At the masquerade ball, everyone can guess the identity of others. If you guess correctly, you can ask the person who is recognized to promise the other person one thing. Chapter 5972. Xinyan didn't wait for Lin Yi's reply before falling asleep. Lin Yi didn't know if he should laugh or cry. Was she too tired yesterday? That couldn't be. Xinyan went to school like normal yesterday and didn't do anything that drained her energy. Lin Yi had to continue practicing, so she went to bed early. Why was she so sleepy today? But since Xinyan said so, Lin Yi had no choice but to leave her be. He went out to talk to Meng Yao and started eating breakfast, but Lin Yi prepared a portion for Xinyan in a lunchbox. He'd bring it to school later. Lin Yi had delayed going to school as much as he could, but even so, Xinyan was still drowsy when she woke up. She followed Lin Yi to the car and fell asleep in the car again. Lin Yi, is Xinyan sick again? Can you give her a checkup later? Meng Yao felt that something was wrong with Xinyan. She hadn't been like this yesterday when Lin Yi had gone to the tomb yesterday. Xinyan had woken up in high spirits, completely different from today. How could there be such a drastic change in just one day? All right, I'll check her when we get to school. Lin Yi nodded. They parked the car at school, and Xinyan had to get up no matter how reluctant she was. She couldn't just sleep on the side of the road, could she? She didn't have the ability to sleepwalk yet. Do you want me to carry you to class? Lin Yi asked, seeing how sleepy Xinyan was. Xinyan was almost tempted by Lin Yi, but she couldn't provoke Xiaolong in school. She gritted her teeth and shook her head. No need, I can walk myself. All right. Lin Yi didn't insist, and went to class with Xinyan. Wang Xinyan's head was heavy, and her feet were light. She almost fell a few times, and when she reached her seat, she fell asleep before Boss Bai came. Lin took the opportunity to examine her, and found that Xinyan's body, which had just recovered, was showing signs of weakness again. This situation surprised Lin. Xinyan had been drinking the medicine Lin made for her every day, and her body should have been getting better and better. Why was it getting worse and worse? Lin frowned, not understanding what was going on. Xinyan had been so energetic last night. Why was she like this morning? Before Lin could think about it, Boss Bai walked into the classroom, and a new lesson started. Lin saw that Xinyan was too tired, so he didn't disturb her. He took her notes and started making notes for her. It was fine if Lin didn't remember these things. He was Boss Bai's special student, after all, and he only came to class out of interest. Xiaolong looked at Lin and Xinyan, a dark look in his eyes. He didn't know how his brother Kong Mingming was doing in the Sky Elixir sect and what kind of position he had. Watching his fiancée get close to another man really pissed him off. Kong bro, why don't you give your brother a call and ask him how he's doing? Panhu Wright suggested, noticing Xiaolong's displeasure. I want to, but I don't have the guts to ask. You know that House Kong isn't even a normal noble house. How can we talk to an ancient sect? Xiaolong smiled bitterly. When Kong Mingming left, he communicated with us through your hidden house you. If we go to the Sky Elixir sect directly, they might not even respond to us, and even if they do, we don't have their contact information. I can give you their contact information, but you're right. Panhu Wright nodded. How about this? I'll go back and ask around for you. Thank you, Xiaolong said gratefully. Xinyan didn't wake up until her afternoon nap. She rubbed her sleepy eyes and looked at the time on her phone. She jumped in shock. Ah, it's already noon? I've been sleeping all this time? Yeah, you looked really tired, so I didn't want to disturb you. Lin smiled as he pushed a box of food in front of Xinyan. I bought this from the cafeteria. Hurry up and eat it, it's getting cold. There's also breakfast here. If it's not enough, you can have some. With that, Lin took out the breakfast he prepared this morning. He saw that Xinyan hadn't woken up yet, so he asked Bai Weitawa to buy 2 boxes of food. He ate in the classroom. I'll eat your breakfast. I like your food. Xinyan took the breakfast Lin made, a little embarrassed. Lin food was much better than the ones in the cafeteria. Xinyan had been living in Lin Yi's villa for a while now, and she'd gotten a lot pickier. Normal food didn't taste good anymore. Haha, it's up to you. Lin smiled. In the afternoon, Xinyan was still in good spirits. She yawned a lot, but it was much better than the morning. After a whole day of classes, she went home with Lin. Coiling Tiger right discussed with his uncle and grandpa about Xiaolong when he got home. Coiling Tiger, it's best if we don't mess with that Lin. Him hitting on Xiaolong's wife has nothing to do with us. We shouldn't interfere, right? Yu Zhentian pondered for a moment before giving his opinion. You're right, but Kong Mingming is the disciple of the Sky Elixir sect's 5th elder. If he inherits the elder's position in the future, it'll be like a man ascending to the heavens. No matter how strong Lin is, he won't be as strong as the Sky Elixir sect. He won't be able to go against them, right? Right, Coiling Tiger thought about it a lot, which was why he agreed to Xiaolong's request. Zhentian and Coiling Tiger are right, old Yu said. However, if we call the Sky Elixir sect secretly, Lin won't know. It's just a small effort. Coiling Tiger, don't go against Lin on the surface. If Xiaolong wants to go against you, just watch. You can attack him behind his back, but don't let him have anything to use against you on the surface. Old Yu thought more. He already knew what happened to the hidden house Yu. On the hidden level, Zhao Qibing's kidnapping of Yu Ning wasn't a secret anymore. Lin was able to walk out of the hidden house Yu unscathed, which proved the hidden house Yu's attitude. If the hidden house Yu couldn't do anything to Lin then what did the hidden house Yu have to go against Lin I understand. Right, Coiling Tiger nodded. How could he not know that Lin couldn't be messed with? As a result, he kept a low profile in school. He knew that Han Jingjing had the notes, but he didn't dare to take it from her in public. What if Lin found out and killed him? He wouldn't be able to explain himself. Chapter 5973. And I'll call the young master of the Heavenly Elixir sect now, said Old Man Yu. Yu Coiling Tiger and Yu Zhentian didn't dare to speak. They waited quietly on the side and watched Old Man Yu respectfully call the young master of the Heavenly Elixir sect Silkworm Transformation. Although Silkworm Transformation wasn't old and was about the same age as Yu Coiling Tiger, he was the young master of the Heavenly Elixir sect. His status was respected. It wasn't something that Old Man Yu could compare with. Hello, I'm the Old Master of the Hidden Yu family. May I ask if the young master is here? Old Man Yu said respectfully to the person who answered the phone. He didn't expect Silkworm Transformation to answer the phone personally. Oh, it's Master Yu. The young master isn't here. What's the matter? Asked the woman who answered the phone. Oh, will the young master be free? Should I call again? Old Man Yu asked when he heard that Silkworm Transformation wasn't here. Our young master has been practicing in seclusion recently. He's preparing for a big event. He won't be able to answer your phone for a while. If you have anything, you can tell me, said the woman. I see. Old Man Yu was a little puzzled. What big event was Silkworm Transformation preparing for? But he didn't dare to ask. So he said, it's like this. Isn't Kong Ming Ming from the Kong family accepted as a disciple by the fifth elder? Now, the Kong family wants to know how Kong Ming Ming is doing recently, so they asked me to help them find out. Oh, that's it. I'll ask Kong Ming Ming to call you back, said the woman after listening. She was the personal maid of Silkworm Transformation. Her status in the Heavenly Elixir sect was naturally not ordinary, so she didn't have much respect for the disciple of the fifth elder. Okay, thank you, Old Man Yu said with a sigh of relief. Kong Ming Ming was refining the pill nervously at the moment. Success or failure depended on this. This was his second time refining the marrow and bone cleansing pill. The previous refining failed. The second refining must succeed, because there wasn't much time left until the Silkworm Transformation's requirements. So he had to give it his all. Kong Ming Ming knew that his current status and strength were all given to him by the Heavenly Silkworm Transformation. If he failed to refine the bone and marrow cleansing pill, the Heavenly Silkworm Transformation would naturally not think so highly of him, and he would not be able to gain a foothold in the Heavenly Elixir sect. If Lin was here, he would be very surprised because Kong Ming Ming was now a Heaven rank master, a yellow rank level 3 alchemist. This speed of leveling was simply akin to riding a rocket. Of course, in order to cultivate Kong Ming Ming, the Heavenly Elixir faction had fed him the Essence Gathering Pill, the Small Qi Gathering Pill, the Medium Qi Gathering Pill, and the Qi Gathering Pill. Kong Ming Ming's strength could be said to have skyrocketed. Very quickly, he became a Heaven rank expert and a Yellow rank level 3 pill master. The Qi Gathering Pill was concocted by the Xianzhen ancestor. Otherwise, with the Heavenly Elixir factions Heaven, Earth, and Man, although he could also concoct it, the success rate would not be so high, and he would not have had the time to give it to Kong Ming Ming. The fact that Kong Ming Ming received such care showed how important the bone and marrow cleansing pill was to the Heavenly Elixir faction, or rather, to the 5 Elements sect. In the secret room sat Kong Ming Ming. His forehead was full of sweat as he concocted the bone and marrow cleansing pill. Beside him sat the Heavenly Elixir factions Heaven, Earth, and Man, as well as an old man that most people in the Heavenly Elixir faction did not recognize. This person was actually the Xianzhen ancestor. The Xianzhen ancestor was actually sitting here, personally to supervise and guide Kong Ming Ming. One could imagine the importance of this pill concocting mission. Slowly increase the temperature, increase the intensity of the fire. The Xianzhen ancestor ordered Kong Ming Ming. Kong Ming Ming carefully followed the instructions. Stabilize the temperature, continue to increase the intensity of the fire. The Xianzhen ancestor continued to order. Kong Ming Ming continued to follow the instructions. The Heavenly Silkworm female servant did not find Kong Ming Ming. She only saw the 5th elder, so she passed the Elder Yu's call to the 5th elder. I understand. However, Kong Ming Ming is currently doing something big. Once he is done, he might be able to communicate with the outside world without any obstructions. The fifth elder was a little relieved and a little emotional at the same time. If his disciple successfully concocted the bone and marrow cleansing pill, he would become the eighth elder of the heavenly elixir faction. Although his position would not be as high as the fifth elder, he would still be an elder. This was his disciple, so the fifth elder was naturally happy. However, think about how much effort he had put in to become an elder of the heavenly elixir faction. However, Kong Ming-Ming's luck was good. Not only did he have someone to assist him in leveling up, but he also concocted a pill. This allowed him to stabilize his position as the eighth elder. All right, the heavenly silkworm female servant nodded and then left respectfully. She did not respect Kong Ming-Ming much, but she was very polite to the fifth elder. In the heavenly elixir faction, the elders had a very high status. Other than the heavenly silkworm female servant, they had the highest status. As for the fifth elder, his eyes were fixed on the door of the secret chamber, and he was extremely nervous. All right, slowly retract the fire. Ancestor Xianjun shouted and said excitedly. Yes. Kong Ming-Ming also felt that the pill was completed, so he quickly began to retract the fire. When Kong Ming-Ming finished retracting the fire, the ancestor Xianjun didn't care about the heat and directly opened the lid of the medicine cauldron. Instantly, the room was filled with fragrance. The bone and marrow cleansing pill was successfully concocted. Kong Ming-Ming wiped the sweat from his forehead, and a proud smile appeared on his face. He had been waiting for this moment, and he finally succeeded. He was going to become the eighth elder of the heavenly elixir faction. What Lin Yi? What Kong Xiaobo? They were all trash. No matter how powerful Lin Yi was, he was just jumping around in the aristocratic family level. Would he dare to go against the ancient level? What was there to be afraid of if even the hidden level didn't dare to provoke them? Poor Kong Ming-Ming still didn't know about Lin Yi's achievements during this period of time. He still didn't know that the hidden level didn't dare to provoke Lin Yi anymore. He still thought that Lin Yi was the same as before he left. Very good, but the quality is a bit lacking. Ancestor Xianjun looked at the bone and marrow cleansing pill in his hand excitedly, and then directly swallowed it. This scene made Kong Ming-Ming dumbfounded. The ancestor Xianjun was also dumbfounded. This bone and marrow cleansing pill wasn't for him to consume. Didn't it have other uses? Why did ancestor Xianjun swallow it directly? Ancestor Xianjun looked at the two dumbfounded people in front of him and smiled. After I consume it, I can continue concocting. Although Zhao Ming can also concoct it, his skills are still not as good as mine. After I consume it, I can concoct a better quality bone and marrow cleansing pill. Oh. The ancestor Xianjun nodded. He was shocked earlier, thinking that ancestor Xianjun had suddenly changed his mind. Although it was ancestor Xianjun's turn to concoct the bone and marrow cleansing pill, Kong Ming-Ming was also a great contributor to the Heavenly Elixir faction and Five Elements faction. Furthermore, the Heavenly Elixir faction and Five Elements faction had spent a lot of resources to nurture him. Making him the eighth elder was reasonable. Chapter 5974. Is that so? Yushu wasn't interested in the boots at all. Han Jingjing went back to her house after dinner, while Meng Yao, Yushu, and Xin Yan went upstairs to sleep. Lin Yi didn't ask Xin Yan to stay, afraid that he wouldn't be able to stop himself from practicing in the middle of the night. Xin Yan, on the other hand, was too embarrassed to stay anymore. She'd been helping Lin Yi with his practicing before. What excuse could she use now? Lin Yi went back to his room and called Boss Bai to tell him that he was safe. He then asked, Master Bai, how is the inheritance in my body? Is there any news? I'm looking for information for you, but there's no news yet. Sai, if only I was still in the Five Elements sect, but I can't ask them now. Boss Bai said helplessly. It's okay, there's no rush. Lin Yi said that, but he was still very worried. HM, how about this? I'll call my second disciple and ask him if I have the chance. Boss Bai naturally understood what Lin Yi was thinking. He hesitated for a moment, before making his decision. His relationship with Xianjun wasn't good, but his relationship with Xianjun was very good. Boss Bai's alchemist had passed away a long time ago, and he barely taught him anything, and Xianjun's alchemy skills were all taught by him. As a result, he had always been close to Xianjun. It was just that they hadn't contacted each other for so many years, and he didn't know if Xianjun was still the Xianjun from before or if he had turned to Xianquan's side. There won't be any side effects, will there? Lin Yi asked worriedly. I'll try. If it works, then it works. If it doesn't, then it doesn't matter. Boss Bai laughed and said indifferently, At most, I'll lose face. What's the big deal? Thank you, Master Bai. Lin Yi sighed, the former head of the Five Elements sect. He was the former master of the Five Elements sect, but he asked his former junior brother, and he might lose face. All of this was for him. So how could Lin Yi not dare to do it? If you can grow up, that will be my greatest joy. I still hope that we can return to the Five Elements sect together one day. Boss Bai said. Lin Yi didn't say anything else. Words of gratitude were unnecessary. It all depended on his future actions. Boss Bai hung up Lin Yi's call and hesitated for a long time before he finally called Xianjun. In the Five Elements sect, Xianjun and Xianjun's satellite phone numbers had not changed for many years. However, he had never taken the initiative to call them. He would rather forget about it. But today, for the sake of Lin Yi, for the sake of his disciple, he had to call Patriarch Xianjun. Old ancestor Xianjun was studying the pill recipe that Kong Ming had brought back. It was a Tier 4 pill recipe, and this time around, it was flawless. However, he was unable to refine it. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Lin Yi's inheritance method should be settled. Eldest senior brother, please don't say that. If there's anything you need, just say it. It's not a request. If you want me to do something, just say it. The profound truth patriarch hurriedly said, but you also know that there are some things that I can't do with Xianqun around. Are you asking me not to target your disciple in the Five Elements sect? It's not that. Boss Bai denied. I won't make it difficult for you. It's something else. That's good. The profound truth patriarch let out a sigh of relief. He didn't dare to go against the profound truth patriarch. The Five Elements sect could be said to be completely under the control of the profound truth patriarch. The second patriarch, was actually just an empty shell. His force was only the heavenly elixir sect. However, it was only a force in the dark. On the surface, the heavenly elixir sect was still under the control of the profound truth patriarch. He couldn't do too much. Otherwise, the profound truth patriarch would see his flaws. He would be fine, but his two disciples would definitely be unlucky. Chapter 5975. Senior brother, you don't have to check this. I know. Although Xuanjin Ancestor found it strange why Boss Bai asked this, he didn't ask. Instead, he agreed without hesitation. I'll tell you now. Oh, you remember now? That's great. I'll record it. Boss Bai was a little excited. He didn't expect that what he had been worrying about for many days would come to him so easily. Xuanjin Ancestor still respected him as much as before and would do his best to help him. This made Boss Bai very happy. However, if it weren't for this, Boss Bai wouldn't have called to ask for help. This was a blessing in disguise. Okay, senior brother, you're talking about the inheritance of the original power from the virtual attribute to the real attribute, right? Not the inheritance of the ordinary inheritor? Xuanjin Ancestor asked. Yes, this kind of inheritance. Boss Bai nodded and said, the inheritor doesn't need to spend so much effort to understand the inheritance. You just need to go to the source of the attribute to comprehend it. I don't need to call you. There are two ways to inherit the power of the origin. The first is the orthodox way, which requires a series of complicated preparations. After consuming the marrow and bone cleansing elixir, you will head to the land of inheritance to inherit the power of the origin. This is a very complicated process. If you want to know more, I will copy it down as soon as possible and find an opportunity to mail it to you, Patriarch Xuanjin said. Okay, Then be careful, Boss Bai said gratefully. It was very dangerous for Xuanjin Ancestor to do this. Although Xuanjin Ancestor could go in and out of the five-element sect scripture pavilion at will and read the books inside, it was very difficult for him to copy the original power inheritance and mail it to Boss Bai without anyone noticing. According to Xuanjin Ancestor, Xianqin Ancestor was basically in charge of the five-element sect now. His spies were everywhere. If the Xuanjin Patriarch did this without telling the truth, he would have to work very hard. For example, reciting a section every day and copying it when he went back. Otherwise, if he took the book away directly, Xianqin Ancestor would definitely be suspicious. Xuanjin Ancestor was focused on alchemy. Why would he suddenly be interested in the inheritance? Boss Bai knew very well that there must be something fishy going on. Don't worry, I'll be careful. All these years, Patriarch Xuanjin had gotten used to living under surveillance. If it were not for the surveillance, he would not have been able to cultivate his own force in the Heavenly Elixir sect. By the way, what's the other way of inheritance? Boss Bai continued to ask. Another method of inheritance. It's a crooked path, but it's also a shortcut. Old Ancestor Xianjun said, that is to let the virtual person and the inheritor of this branch dual cultivate. Dual cultivating with an inheritor wasn't very realistic for Lin Yi. Even if Xiao Xiao was an inheritor, how long would it take to gather the other 6 inheritors? Even if he did, would they dual cultivate with him? Xiao Xiao would be fine, but what about the others? Lin Yi didn't want to do anything to force them. Plus, even if Lin Yi wanted to force them, would they be so easily forced? The inheritors all had ancient powers behind them. There was no way Lin Yi was going to force them. Shaking his head, Lin Yi decided not to think about this for now. Instead, he placed his hopes on the first inheritance method that Xuanjin mentioned. Unless Mo Ba was on the same level as Lin Yi, Feng Shusan, an early phase sky class, should be able to deal with him for a while. Yeah, although I don't know what's going on, but thinking about it, Zhang Naipeo didn't even make a move before the disciple of the Holy Fist Palace was crippled. This is very strange, and he took the initiative to let you hit him. I feel that this is very strange, Gu Xian said. That's why I stopped you. Lin Yi nodded. I'm worried about this too. This Zhang Naipeo is a disciple of the demon sect, and we can't use common sense to judge him. It seems that we need to investigate carefully. Don't worry, I'll try my best to find out, but the things I can find out are only on the surface. I can't do anything if it's too secretive. Gu Xian shrugged and said helplessly. Not long after Zhang Naipeo left, 3 practitioners came. They were obviously here to participate in the test, but one of them was alone. He looked like he was very unlucky, and the other 2 were on guard against him, as if they wanted to keep a distance from him. That disciple with the noob face is the disciple of the Holy Fist Palace. One of his companions was crippled by Zhang Naipeo, and because he has a grudge with Zhang Naipeo, the other 2 don't dare to get too close to him. Gu Xian explained to Lin Yi and the others in a low voice. Then where are the other 2 from? Lin Yi asked. I don't know about that, but I have news about that Holy Fist Palace disciple because they fought with Zhang Naipeo, Gu Xian said. Young hero, why don't you come and sit with us? At this time, Feng Shizhong stood up and threw an olive branch to the disciple of the Holy Fist Palace. In fact, he was not stupid, but he was straightforward and honest. He also knew that Lin Yi and Zhang Naipeo were rivals, and he sat with Lin Yi before, so it was inevitable that Zhang Naipeo would treat him as an enemy. The enemy of an enemy was a friend, and this disciple of the Holy Fist Palace had crippled his companion, so he must hate Zhang Naipeo to the core. The disciple of the Holy Fist Palace was stunned. He didn't expect that someone would take the initiative to recruit him. The disciples of other sects avoided him, afraid that they would provoke Zhang Naipeo's revenge. He was thinking about whether he should continue to participate in the test when someone called him. Hello, are you calling me? The disciple of the Holy Fist Palace pointed at himself and asked with uncertainty. Of course, I am Feng Shizhong, a sky-class early-stage spiritual master, a disciple of the ancient Feng family. May I know your name, young hero? Feng Shizhong asked with a smile. My name is Li Siba. I am from the Holy Fist Palace, a sky-class mid-stage spiritual master. Li Siba said with fear and trepidation. Usually, the disciple of the Holy Fist Palace was very arrogant. Chapter 59-77. Li Siba, of course, knew how strong Zhang Naipeo's men were. They were real heaven-class masters, and Lin Yi could cripple them in one move? What kind of terrifying strength was this? He had suffered under Zhang Naipeo's hands before, and he knew how strong they were. Although he was also a heaven-class master, he didn't get the upper hand against two of Naipeo's men. If he didn't run fast enough, he might have been crippled. But he didn't expect Lin Yi to be able to cripple Naipeo's men, and he was still eating here as if nothing had happened. It was unbelievable. Li Siba greets young hero Lin. Brother Lin, you are really my idol. Brother Lin, you may already know that our Holy Fist Palace disciples suffered under Zhang Naipeo's hands, and I thought there was no hope for revenge. I didn't expect Brother Lin to help me vent my anger. I'm so grateful. Li Siba looked at Lin Yi with admiration. Zhang Naipeo and I are enemies, and I crippled him in the Ice Palace last time. It's normal for him to come looking for trouble. It's not like it has anything to do with you. Lin Yi said nonchalantly with a wave of his hand. Damn, Brother Lin, you are so strong. You crippled Zhang Naipeo last time. Did you cripple Feng Nitian as well? Li Siba suddenly turned to look at Feng Shipian. He didn't know why Feng Shipian was sitting with Lin Yi. Didn't Lin Yi cripple someone from the Fengs? Don't look at me like that, Brother Li. I know my cousin very well. He's arrogant and domineering. He tried to rob Brother Lin's treasures in the Ice Palace trial, and he got crippled by Brother Lin. He deserved it. Feng Shipian shook his head and said, This doesn't affect my relationship with Brother Lin. In actuality, Feng Shipian wasn't an idiot at all. He came here to get medicine for Nitian, but he didn't show any hostility towards the person who injured Nitian. Instead, he showed friendliness. This was enough to show that Feng Shipian was the type of person who looked like a fool. I see. Li Siba nodded. Since Brother Lin is so strong, why don't we nominate Brother Lin to be our captain? We'll form a team and join the trial under Brother Lin's leadership. I think it's a good idea. Guxian also admired Lin Yi and nodded in agreement. Of course, I have no problem with that. With Brother Lin leading us. Our team is like a tiger that has grown wings. Feng Shipian said with a smile. Lin Yi is my boss. I'll be fine. Chikuan said. Therefore, Lin Yi inexplicably became the leader of the group, which made him feel somewhat helpless. By the way, C.I. Ba, where are the two disciples who came with you from? It seems like he's on guard against you. Lin Yi asked. Since everyone had elected him as the team leader, he wouldn't decline and just called Li Siba. There were a lot of practitioners in the restaurant, and Yang Chi-Chi didn't notice Lin Yi. She left alone after dinner. It seemed like she didn't have any friends here. Naipeo didn't know if it was because he was defeated by Lin Yi, but he didn't come back down after he went upstairs. He didn't eat either. Bro Lin, what's this spirit beast of yours? Why does it look like a pet? It shouldn't be of much use in this test, right? Guxian was a knowledgeable man, and he found the spirit beast in Lin Yi's hand strange. Chapter 59-78. But now, he had finally settled down. Although there were still dangers in his life, it was different from before. Lin Yi had a goal and a sense of existence. This was also the first time Lin Yi had looked at the ninth princess after Yuning. I've said it before, you're my team member. I will not give up on any team member, Lin Yi said. Chi-Chi suddenly felt that this sentence was familiar, but she couldn't remember where she had heard it. She only thanked Lin Yi silently. She decided that if they could leave this place successfully, She would do everything she could to help Lin find out what Lin needed in Europe. Don't worry too much. There will be a way. Let's eat something first. Are you hungry? Lin asked. Yeah, a little. Chi-Chi rubbed her stomach. She was worried that she wouldn't be able to leave this place, but after hearing what Lin said, she was really hungry. Then wait for me here. I'll go catch some fish in the lake over there, Lin said as he stood up and walked towards the lake that the pig had pointed him to. Chi-Chi looked at Lin's back and felt very conflicted. She felt very guilty. She had treated Lin badly, but Lin didn't care and helped her every time she was in danger. Chi-Chi wasn't someone with a heart of stone. How could she not be touched? Naturally, Lin didn't know that Chi-Chi's opinion of him had changed. He caught 4 or 5 fish in the lake and quickly went back to where he'd come from. He prepared the fish quickly and skillfully before putting them in a clean place and started to roast them. All right, eat. Lin gave most of the fish to Chi-Chi, but only took one for himself. You? Why are you only eating one? Chi-Chi was a little embarrassed and asked. I'm a spiritual practitioner. He just needed to cultivate for a while. You're a physical cultivator, so your physical recovery is slower. Lin said. Then, I won't hold back. Chi-Chi nodded. The difference between a spiritual practitioner and a physical practitioner was that spiritual practitioners could absorb the chi in the air and turn it into their own chi for their own use. Physical practitioners, on the other hand, had to train their body to achieve their goal. Although external experts, after cultivating a martial technique, could also use the surrounding spiritual chi for their own use when executing a martial technique. However, in terms of recovery speed, they were still inferior to internal cultivators. External martial cultivators exhausted their stamina slowly. This was because martial techniques used the spiritual energy in the surroundings. They did not need to use their own quintessence. There were pros and cons to both. However, if the external experts didn't use their martial skills, then they wouldn't be able to do so. Then, Naipeo's thorn arts would lose its effect. Mr. Lang, I was just about to call you. Tianli smiled as he picked up the phone. Mr. Liu, are you panicking? You gave me the money, afraid that I'd run away? Xiaochun smiled brightly. How could that be? Mr. Lang and I have a strategic partnership, and our medicine business is worth a few $100 million a year. Mr. Lang wouldn't be interested in $30 million. Tianli really didn't think that Mr. Lang would lie to him. On one hand, it was the hypnotist's work, and on the other, the two companies would be doing business for a few $100 million a year. Mr. Lang wouldn't be interested in this small amount of money. I was just joking, Mr. Liu. I have good news for you. Xiaochun changed the topic. Oh, what good news? Do you have more cigarettes? Tianli paused and asked. I'll bring you some cigarettes on the way, Xiaochun said. All right, I'll be waiting for you in my company, Mr. Lang, Tianli said quickly. Half an hour later, Xiaochun and the hypnotist appeared at Tianli's company, and naturally, Tianli welcomed them warmly in the guest room. Mr. Lang, you're the best. This business has brought in such a huge profit in just a few days. Tianli wasn't someone who hadn't seen a lot of money before, but to be able to earn so much in just a few days, this speed was not to be underestimated. Haha, it's nothing, it's nothing. If it weren't for Director Liu's support, I wouldn't be able to earn so much money. Xiaochun waved his hand with a smile. But it's not impossible for us to continue investing. Yes, the more you invest, the greater the return. For example, if you invest a few $100 million, the return will be even greater. Cui Mianshur said, not missing the opportunity. That's right, then let's invest $500 million. Let's hope we can earn more money. Tianli didn't know what was going on, but he suddenly had a strong desire to invest. He didn't even think about it before saying it. That's fine, then let's sign another contract and continue this business, Xiaochun said. All right, no problem. I'll start raising the money in the next 2 days. Tianli's company didn't earn much after becoming the agent of Miracle Dr. Guan's company, but the cash flow was still very strong. When Lin was treating Jinhu, it was hard for House Liu to gather $100 million, but now, 500 million wasn't a problem at all. Although most of it was from Miracle Dr. Wan's company, they could still use it once in a while. After all, Lin trusted House Lu a lot. He never checked the accounts or anything like that. So Tianli still had a lot of room to maneuver. The contract is still the same as last time, just changing the numbers, Cui Mianshi said as he took out a contract from his bag and passed it to Tianli. Tianli nodded and looked at the contract. It was the same as last time, but the investment amount wasn't confirmed yet. No problem, I'll sign it now and help you raise the money. Tianli nodded and looked at the contract briefly. Since they had worked together many times, Tianli didn't suspect anything and signed the contract right away. In the next few days, Tianli started to raise money for Xiao Chun. He used the money from the company to buy the medicine for Miracle Dr. Wan's company and some of the money from the customers and transferred it to Mr. Lang's account. With cigarettes, Tianli's life in the future would be very comfortable. He would smoke every day, fantasizing that the 500 million would turn into 1 billion. If that happened, who would doubt his ability to expand? However, in less than 2 days, Xiao Chun called him again. Mr. Liu, it's me, Xiao Chun said. Mr. Lang, what's up? How's the organization of our goods? Tianli asked. The goods are pretty much organized, but there's something else I want to discuss with you. We're going to do it. How about a big one? Xiao Chun asked. A big one? What do you mean? How did you make it big? Tianli paused. How about this? I'll go with Cui, and we'll talk about it in your company. Xiao Chun said. All right, I'll wait for Mr. Lang's arrival at the company, Tianli said quickly. This time, Xiao Chun and Cui Mianshi came very quickly. Less than 20 minutes after hanging up, they arrived at Tianli's company's guest room. Chapter 5980. Qibing didn't think that Yui would be so stubborn. No matter what he said, he'd be so cold and indifferent. He had no choice but to say, Fine, I'll leave then. If you don't want to listen, then don't listen. Yui snorted coldly and answered Qibing's question. Qibing had no choice but to turn around and get in the car. He said to Qikuan, You drive, my head is broken. Serves you right, who told you to be a busybody? Qikuan said sarcastically as he got in the driver's seat, started the car, and left quickly. Mr. Yui, why did you help me? It's Ning. Lin, he was injured, but it wasn't to the point where he couldn't speak. With curiosity, Lin, he asked. But you didn't give Lin any answer. He turned around and left. Yui's sudden arrival, help, and abrupt departure confused Lin. But among the people present, there was one person who understood why Yui would help, and that person was Yushu. But Yushu couldn't reveal anything. She squatted down and held Lin Yi's hand. Shieldbro, how are you? Yeah. Lin Yi, how did you get hurt like this? I'll carry you back to your room to heal. Ming Yao said quickly. Okay. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Even if he went back to his room, he wouldn't be able to heal. He couldn't use the arts, so how could he heal? Even with General Wei Wu and Skybolt Pig, the two spirit beasts from the same sect, Lin Yi couldn't get pure energy from them with his practitioner's art suppressed. It was a dead end. If Qibing hadn't suggested breaking Lin Yi's Dantian, Lin Yi could have used the Qi gathering pill to level up and break through to Sky class. Then he could have used the art of Dragon Mastery to heal his meridians. Even if he didn't have the pill, he could use General Wei Wu or Skybolt Pig to recover. But Qibing had messed up Lin Yi's plans. One had to admit that Qibing was quite the schemer, putting Lin Yi in a very difficult position. Meng Yao and Yushu carried Lin Yi back to his room, helpless. But Lin Yi smiled and comforted, Shu, why are you wearing the mid-level golden cicada underwear? Lin Yi remembered that he had put away the mid-level golden cicada underwear after coming back from the Sky Elixir sect. He didn't think that Shu would have taken it out. Luckily, she wore it, or he wouldn't have been able to take that punch from Qibing. Although Yui had stopped Qibing, it had to be said that the mid-level golden cicada underwear played a decisive role. As for Yui's appearance, although Lin Yi didn't understand, he was grateful. If it wasn't for him, Qibing would have turned his target to Meng Yao. Yushu had the mid-level golden cicada underwear, but Meng Yao didn't. If Qibing really hit Meng Yao, the consequences would have been unimaginable. I don't know. Shu thought it was fun, so I put it on. I didn't think that Prophet Shu was this good. Yushu didn't know that Lin Yi couldn't recover, so her tone was relaxed. There wasn't a trace of sadness.